Hello, this is the fifth part of Shed No Grace on Me by Neon Zangetsu. Link will be in the description. All author's notes have been removed between chapters. Also, any explicit NSFW scene will be removed. This part will cover chapter 29 to 36. Mother, wouldst thou truly sanction lordship in one so bereft of light? I see, so that is your answer. A most inauspicious choice. Very well then. The game is set, the die cast. Let us begin. Tilda Messmer. Into the shadows, burn them all. Burn all of them! Burn every last one of them! Naruto jolted awake with a start and a strangled snarl, heart in his throat, chakra flaring, pulse pounding in his ears. His fingers fumbled for a weapon that was no longer there and closed around empty air instead. Even then, it took him a moment to realize where he was, let alone the lack of danger. Safe. Relax. Breathe. Kurama rumbled his concern. You good? Yeah. He hunched down under his blanket, quietly cursing the chill. Just a bad dream. The four of them had taken refuge in a crumbling church for the night, an old, broken-down thing framed by a statue of Marika. Frankly, it had seen better days. I resent that. Oh, so his connection to her was still there. Good to know. Latenna shivered a little and snuggled closer for warmth as they shared a blanket. Huh! She wasn't as slim and slender as she looked under all that armor. She had curves and hue as keenly aware of them as she pressed against him. Are you awake, my lord? He muttered his assent and let her lean into him. Good. She cuddled closer. We are close now. Will you journey with me still, even once I've completed my task? What kind of question was that? He looked her way and nodded. Of course I will. Her pale face dimpled in a small, reserved smile. Wonderful. You've no idea what those words mean to me. Her hand drifted lower, caressing his thigh. His eyes widened. Oi, he hissed at her. The hell are you doing? Worry not, she crooned. Our companions are sound asleep. And they were. He glanced over and found Millicent all but dead to the world, chest rising and falling loosely in sleep. Nor was she alone in her repose. Even from here he could see Melina tuked into a dark corner near the fire, her good eye closed in a rare bout of rest. Good on her. She hardly seemed to sleep at all these days. She must be weary indeed. Latenna kissed his chin, demanding his attention. She lifted the blanket with a trembling hand, exposing the rest of herself to him. Curves all, not a stitch of clothing to be seen. Lay with me. His throat went dry. So that's what she looked like under all those robes. Damn. Sneaky girl must have disrobed when he wasn't looking. They'll hear us. We'll be caught. She smiled. Is that risk not worth the reward? Before he could think to answer, she rolled onto his lap with surprising dexterity and mounted him, warm and wet for him already. Her forehead kissed his. As I said before, I will not fall behind. Well, damn. How could one argue with that? She gripped him with her legs, and unbidden he found his hands settling on her hips, content to let her ride him until she found the release she sought. It came suddenly and quickly as they explored one another's bodies, her sharp cries of pleasure hastily muffled against his mouth as she planted her hands atop his chest and pushed. Her body trembled atop his once, twice, thrice now, before she was content, and he with her. From there, she tumbled off and tucked herself against his side. Sleep came quickly. 0.0. Melina knew. He didn't know how she knew, only that she did, because her very first words to him as they set out the next morning were thus. The Albinoric woman lacks stamina. If you craved a true night of passion, you should have come to me. Naruto nearly tripped over his own 2 feet. Are you actually jealous? Her good eye glanced his way as they crunched through the snow. No. Light laughter bubbled up in him. You definitely are. I said nay. Ha! She stomped his foot as he laughed for all the good it did her. He took it with good grace. No, better than grace. He grabbed her by the hands and, seized by a sudden fit of inspiration, swept her off her feet into a dance. The maiden's yelp was sweet music to his ears, but as he had his feet directly under hers, literally forcing her to stand on them as he moved, there was naught she could do but hold on to his hands for dear life and shout at him as he swayed the two of them through the snow. What the devil are you doing? Have a bit of fun, Tild. He beamed at her. Might as well have one last dance. We should not tarry here over long. She glared up at him, but didn't release his fingers and let him have his way. A sacrifice must be made, and soon. He stuck out his chin, content to ignore her as they danced. This again. I would rather not die if necessary. She granted him a small, sad smile. I have become rather fond of these lands between. I suppose I've you to thank for that. Naruto hummed, considering what Shibiri had said. If you wish to save your maiden. About the frenzied flame, no. Now it was her turn to be stubborn. However broken and ruined this land is, births still continue. Life endures. Is that not worth protecting? I would not have you burn it all just to save my life. But if I could handle it, no. She glared at him sternly. All right. When did you become so bossy? She kissed his cheek, drawing a smile to his lips. When you convinced me to live. Fair enough. Before he could say more, someone coughed. I can be silent no longer. Please, let me speak. He looked back and Millicent scowling studiously at her boots. Reluctantly, he released Melina and turned to face her sullen counterpart. Millie? As he looked on, the redhead knelt, drew her blade and set the sheathed weapon atop her lap. If there is a sacrifice to be made, let it be mine. Allow me to take my life for failing you. Shock, incredulity, denial. All these emotions at once had Naruto nearly choking on his own spit. Excuse you? She bowed her head. I have disgraced myself and broken my vow, raised my hand against you, ow. Now it was her turn to yelp as he thumped her over the head. That wasn't you? Her golden gaze creased with sorrow. But as your blade, I have dishonored myself and you both. Nonsense. Melina bulled in beside him, fury writ across her face. I won't hear of it. You weren't in control of your actions. That is all. See? Naruto slashed a hand through the air. Not happening. Millicent tried to protest, but the words stuck her throat. Wait. Melina looked past him suddenly, alarmed. Where is Latena? Naruto looked back, belatedly realizing he hadn't heard from the Albinawic archer in some time. Where had she gone? Hadn't she been right behind them? Stranger still, Forge of the Fire Giants was nowhere in sight. Strange. He could have sworn it was close. His brow furrowed as he cast a glance about himself. Where are we? The ground shifted ominously underfoot. It proved their one and only warning. The treacherous earth gave way. Then they fell into shadow. Chapter 30. Listen, you. These days, you're too damn much like the monsters we fight. That's the problem. Too damn headstrong. Too damn angry. Too damn scary for your own damn good. You ain't the same kid you used to be, that hopeful brat who could talk anyone the right way round. And we need that guy again. We need him real bad. Let me be the one they're scared of. You be the one they fall in love with. That's all I'm asking. Tilda. A new vow. Sweet, velvety sleep wrapped Naruto up in a warm blanket. He wanted to open his eyes, he wanted to move, he wanted to get up, but he was just so comfortable. The mere act of breathing itself was enough to drag him deeper into slumber. Struggling only made it worse. When he tried to rise, his body betrayed him and rolled right over, refusing to wake. Maybe that was for the best. What was the harm in resting a little while longer? It wasn't as though he had anywhere else to be, or anything important to do for that matter. What had he been doing again? He could only recall bits and pieces. Falling. Screams. Darkness. Was not sleep better than that? Make, Michaela, stop. Wait, don't turn the poor thing into a god. What was that voice? Soft and gentle, yet faint and halting. Godhood would be Michaela's prison. It sounded strangely familiar. A caged divinity is beyond saving. How odd, it felt like he was forgetting something. You must stop, Michaela. Grant them forgiveness. A mounting sense of longing bloomed in his chest. You must find me, please. His eyes snapped open, just in time for a mighty fist to slam into his visage. Once, twice, thrice he saw stars as his attacker buffeted him to and fro, hollering all the while. Wake up! You must wake up! Awaken at once! I'm awake! Sputtering, he caught one fist and the other with his remaining hand, more annoyed than harmed. Stop that! Oh! A masculine laugh was his reward, the voice oddly familiar. My apologies. You'd been out of it for a while, and I've been shouting for so long now. I thought you'd gone into the light. Gone into the light, he says. Bastard had almost knocked him into it. Yeah, well, I didn't. No thanks to you. Letting him go, Naruto squinted up at a shadowy sky still reeling. You can stop punching me now. Capital! There it was again, that strangely familiar voice again. Are you all right? You just slugged me. What do you think? I'm sorry. Shaking his head, he blinked the last lingering stars from his vision and endeavored to sit up. A strange, shadowy sky awaited him. wholly and utterly devoid of the Erd tree's light. Wait, that couldn't be right. You couldn't just misplace a giant tree like that. And who was that looming over him? Naruto blinked. He blinked hard. The spectral figure crouched down before him and waved an armored arm his way. Hello, Tilda. Radahn. It was him indeed. The second demigod he'd slain, the one soul he truly hadn't wanted to. His ghost was almost exactly as he remembered. Smaller, perhaps, his spirit not burning quite as bright as he before, but easily recognizable with that mighty helm and his lion armor. He squinted at the spectral figure, his own personal torment, the same he hadn't seen since... not since the Volcano Manor. Finally awake, are you? The gregarious general grinned. I've been shouting at you for the better part of an hour now. Been a while. He dragged a hand across his face and blinked again, trying to banish him from his vision to no avail. Haven't seen you, Renala, and I killed Rickard. I thought you'd moved on. I cannot. Something in those words tugged at his heartstrings. I've business yet left undone. To that end, I have been resting, biding my time, saving my strength until it is needed. His brow furrowed. Needed for what? Now that you mention it, a puzzled look crossed the young lion's regal visage. I cannot recall, oddly enough, but I know where we are. And where would that be? Somewhere we shouldn't be, yet we are. He looked past him. Welcome to the realm of shadow. Naruto followed his gaze and saw what Radahn spoke of. Oh yes, only then did he see it, and dearly wished he hadn't. This was not the lands between. He knew it at a glance. The giant dying tree gave that away. A black and broken twisted thing draped in heavy veils, oozing golden sap like the lifeblood of some dying beast. There was an ember of light there, but it was faint, fading, falling apart, like a garden left untended for far too long until only weeds remained. What is that thing? The Skedutary, Radahn answered. I have no looked upon it in an age. Naruto jolted suddenly, realizing there was a reason for such crushing silence. A quick glance about confirmed his fears. Melina! Millicent! Latina! Where did everyone go? Radahn finished for him with a grimace. I know not. You were alone when I regained my consciousness. Damn it! They'd been lost or worst scattered. Then we'll have to find them. We, is it? Radahn rumbled a laugh. Even now you don't back down in the face of a challenge. I knew I was right to choose you. Heat speared up the back of his neck from shame, not joy. Right to choose him. He'd killed this man, murdered him, and plundered his great rune when he could have saved him. If only he'd tried harder. If only he hadn't hesitated. If only so many things. Shaking away his shame, he looked back to the shadow tree. Shouldn't be hard, I just gotta sense them. Gimme a sec. On a whim, he opened his sixth sense to the realm of shadows. Mistakes were made. His knees struck the ground as a sudden assault savaged his senses. He doubled over, gritting his teeth against it. This place wasn't right. It was full of pain and suffering, but there was more to it than that. He could sense countless souls here, writhing in agony and despair and torment. God, the pain, make it stop. Make it stop. Make it stop. Gagging, he forcibly cut the connection with a hiss, cradled his head between both hands and dry heaved. Kurama gagged in his stomach as he recovered. Is enough to make a fox sick. Lovely place, isn't it? Radahn rumbled. You see why I don't visit often. On that, they agreed wholeheartedly. Why would anyone want to be here? What was wrong with this place? There was so much pain here. Everything was all twisted and knotted up inside, rotten like an apple thrown into the corner and left to fester. Something terrible had happened here. Wait, that wasn't quite right. Something terrible had happened here. Even now it continued to occur, unchecked. He reached up a hand to drag himself upright, only for the spirit to seize it and help him to his feet. Blue eyes fluttered in a rapid blink as he jerked backward. I can interact with you now? Radahn looked just as surprised as he felt. So it would seem. Daring to step forward, he gave the spectre spirit ashes, or was he a genuine ghost, a tentative poke in chest. Rani's brother quirked a crimson brow at him, but otherwise didn't react. So you're real? He babbled, unable to help himself. I haven't been imagining you all this time. Something softened in that craggy visage. I have always been real, Golden One. From the very first. All right, so he wasn't insane. That was a net positive, right? Surely it was. Righting himself with an effort, he looked out on the vast plain before them. Don't suppose you have any idea where Melina and the others might be in this messed up place? The young lion rolled his shoulders in an expressive shrug. I am bound to you, my friend. I have no more knowledge of where they might be than you do. Friend? As if he had any right to be called such. He winced a little at that. Don't call me your friend. Why ever not? I don't deserve it. He turned away. I killed you. Radahn thumped his chest with a spectral fist. And yet here I stand, as a ghost or a figment of my imagination. He pivoted back, rounding on him with a pained noise. I couldn't save you. What are you talking about? The general tilted his head. You did save me, more than you know. You set me free. And just as you rescued me in my time of need, so too shall I rescue you from yours. The old general grinned at him, and despite his shrunken stature in that moment, he seemed taller than any mountain. That said, he ambled on, there are those here in need of salvation just as I was. Although, a shiver shot down Naruto's spine. Although, what now? No, 'tis nothing. Radahn crossed both arms before his broad chest and shook his head at length, sounding vaguely displeased with himself. Or rather, I feel it should be something, but I cannot recall. I lost much of my strength and memories when I shed my flesh. It has taken me time to recover even this much. Well, if you ever remember what, let me know. I shall. The undead general looked past him suddenly, golden eyes focusing on a distant horizon only he could see. And it seems we are in luck. A comrade of mine is here, Romani Freya. She was once a loyal warrior in my warband, and I can sense her nearby. She will know what to do and shall know where best we can begin. Sounds like as good a lead as any. Maybe she'll know how to get out of here. Agreed. Radahn clapped him on the back, blasting air from his lungs. We are one in mind on this, if not body. Shall we go then? Fine. He blew into the ring on his finger, conjuring torrent. Let's get this done. I've got a tree to burn. Radahn beamed and boomed a belly laugh. That's the spirit. Ah, torrent. It has been a long while. You remember me, don't you? Has Rani been taking good care of thee? Oi, Naruto rounded on him. Don't think I didn't miss that last bit. That was a bad joke you must made. You should feel bad. Nonsense. The general looked to him, idly stroking Torrent's head. It was spoken in the spirit of jolly cooperation. You did it again! Radahn feigned ignorance, the big goof, and slung himself onto the spectral steed's back. I haven't the foggiest idea what you mean. Naruto flung up his arms and joined him. I don't want to hear that from a glorified ghost. Now move over. I'm sitting up here. Oh, but I wanted to ride in front. Not a chance, big guy. Off they went. 0.0, 0.0. Elsewhere, the rest of the party had problems of their own. Problems are many and aplenty. Many a problem indeed. A 0.0, 0.0. And you're sure you haven't seen them? Any of them? They're rather hard to miss. The night before Latenna made an annoyed noise. How many times must I repeat myself Albinoric? I have not. Encountered. Your comrades. Latenna pinched the bridge of her nose to stifle a scream building in her throat. Calm. She must be calm. She could not afford to surrender to her base emotions. No matter how annoying this woman was, she couldn't fill her face with arrows, regardless of her ire. What was this place? Where had her lord and the others gone? How could she find them? Too many questions and no answers to be found. Her sole solace in this was Lobo. Were it not for her wolf, she surely would have gone quite mad by now. That said, these shadows and these people had no answers for her. Not this night. Not that scowling brute with the caterpillar mask over there, not any of them. Perhaps she would find what she sought at that strange tree. Leda, was it? She vaguely recalled the woman's name and mentioned in passing as she turned to depart. Thank you for your time. I shall linger here no longer. Why pursue them so? Surely you can find solace in the service of another. Her hackles rose at the very insinuation. What are you suggesting? You were surely called into this realm for a reason. The Needle Knight laid a hand on her shoulder in what she doubtless thought a kind gesture, whereas the truth was anything but. Kindly Michaela would be glad to have one such as you. Clearly your old master cares little for you if he cast you aside in such a manner. Oh, how those words stung worse than any needle. She battered her hand aside. I appreciate your offer, but I only serve one, and it is not this kindly Michaela you claim to serve. The woman bridled. Watch your tongue. I shall do no such thing, wench. She fixed her with a steely stare. Michela did not help we of the Albinorics until my kind was nearly extinct. Even then such aid was paltry. And yet in the span of only a few months our new lord has already found a way to save us. Tell me, what has your Michela done hence? Lady Leda bridled. If you would speak of our lord as such, then you are a threat to be eliminated. Lobo growled. Latenna stayed him with a hand over his snout. Are you truly so fearful that you would attack me, Needle Knight? She didn't give her the chance to find out. In the time it took her to inch forward, she'd already drawn her bow and fired. Even here in this realm of darkness, her aim struck true. An arrow sprouted from Leda's knee in a grisly simulacrum of growth and sent her sprawling to the ground, a yowl of pain. I am no mere Albinoric. Latenna stowed her bow with a huff as she slung herself onto Lobo's back. I am Latenna, and when my lord takes the throne and the false face of your precious Michela is stripped away, it is you who will beg to serve him. Her piece said, she put the Needle Knight behind her. 0.0. The Scarlet Rock called to Millicent, singing ever so sweetly in her ear, a gently lullaby, promising her sweet, sweet succour. If she but surrendered, if she just gave in, she must not heed it. She must. Listlessly, she stumbled towards the Church of the Bud. 0.0. Melina awoke to darkness, crushing gloom as far as the eye could see. It was everywhere. Everyone, everything. She couldn't even see her own hand before her face. In truth, that last part was more an annoyance than any true hindrance, but it irked her all the same. Worse, his skull ached abominably, suggesting she'd suffered a rather nasty fall. Where were the others? Calling out availed her naught. Wincing, she forced herself to sit up. Much to her surprise and dismay, light answered. Candle bloomed in the gloom, lightning one after another, filling the chamber with their dim radiance. Strange. She'd never been here before, and yet this place felt almost familiar. Dare she say homey? One would not think such a dank and dark chamber could be such. Yet she found herself filled with a strange sense of ease now as she climbed to her feet. Mongrel intruder, a low voice intoned. Take not another step. She whirled and froze as she found a crimson serpent staring at her, its lone green eye piercing her very soul. The world-weary voice came on again. Thou art no tarnished, it seemeth. We share the same blood. How unusual. The serpent vanished into the either before her very eyes, and in vain she followed it. A man sat upon a throne, poised before a statue of Mother. With a low hum, the candles around her brightened, and she saw. Whomever this man might be, he was tall, terrifyingly so, clad in a mantle of red cloth and chainmail, wearing a wicked helm coiled with winged serpents besides. His very presence invoked a strange, nameless dread in her, a fear she couldn't quantify. Gold of eye and red of hair, he pinned her with his stare, gazing forward without a care. And that was when one ignored the eerie serpent that seemed fused to him. Good morrow, little sister. The stranger rose from his seat with a languid sigh. Sister. He repeated the word after a moment's pause, as though tasting the word on his tongue. How quaint. I had never thought to want a sibling. And yet, here you are. Melina drew her cloak close to herself, shoulders tensing beneath. He claimed to be her kin? Impossible. Her kin were mother and demigods. For this man to claim such, he must be. Oh, this boded most poorly for her. Well, hast thou lost thine voice? There was a low, raspy tinge to his own tone, a weariness bone deep. Welcome to my humble abode. I would offer thee bread and salt, but I'm afraid I've long since run out. A tremor ran through her frail frame. Who are you? It was both the wrong and the right thing to say. The pale man smiled, more a pained grimace really, his lone golden eye regarding her intently. You do not know me. Mother. He palmed his pallid face with a sigh. Were you truly so ashamed of our crusade that you would wipe my very name from history? Melina tilted her head. I am Mesmer. He paused at the last, towering over her. Lord Impale, ruler of this castle. And you, little sister, are my guest. Melina did not shrink back, and she certainly didn't shy away, but she tensed all the same beneath his golden gaze. This man, no, this demigod, did not possess a great rune like the rest of his kin, but he was no weaker for it. If anything, the absence of such seemed to strengthen him. She was alone, with no allies, no backup, no hope. Her only recourse was to try and talk her way out of this. Naruto could have. He would have, too, that cheeky bastard. He was good at talking people round. He'd done it to her and so many others. But he wasn't here. Bugger. I suppose I'll have to do this alone. Still, her heart clenched. This was no mere demigod. Long had she thought Godwyn was the first of them. But that eye, his flaming red hair, the sheer power he exuded was truth enough. More than enough. Her hand dove behind her back, clutching the blade there. Why have you brought me here? Such fire in you. He tittered softly. I found you on the brink of death and nursed thee back to health. Am I not owed a spot of gratitude? She edged back. Then you won't mind letting me leave? The serpent over his shoulder hissed at her. Now, now! Mesmer quelled it with a gentle pat upon the head. We mustn't be rude to our guests. He looked back to her, smiling softly, serenely, sadly. Or tell me of Mother, won't you? It has been so terribly long since she cast me aside, left me here, abandoned me here. A tremor of fear shook her shoulders. His mood kept shifting incessantly. What was she to think of that? No, she already knew. He was insane. Stark raving mad. Best appease him for the time being. She is, well, something prodded her shoulder and startled Melina whirled to find Mesmer behind her. She'd not even seen him move. Careful now. He held out a long finger and pushed it against her lips, silencing her protests. I enjoy you, but I won't hesitate to cut out your lying tongue. Tell me now and tell me true. What is the state of the lands between? How fare mother and father in my absence? Melina winced. But she told him. What choice did she have? She could not best him, could not overpower him. Combat was not an option. And so it all fell to ruin. Mesmer palmed his face with a sigh. Would that I were there! None of this would have transpired. Melina turned toward the door. A spear slammed into it with a fiery explosion welding the metal shut. Her half-brother lowered his arm with a wry smile unfazed by her anger. Leaving so soon? But we've only just begun. Here, dear sister. He held out a pale hand to her, and as she looked on, a dark flame flickered within. Do you recognize this? Melina turned her head aside, but not quickly enough. You do, she heard him croon darkly. You recognize this flame. It is the same as the one you cradle beneath your breast, the very reason for which you were born. For what purpose did Mother make you? She tucked her chin into her chest. I know not what you mean. Mesmer made an annoyed noise. How easily lies leap to your lips, little one. Did I not warn you? In an instant, the impaler was upon her. He batted her arm aside and seized her by the face, gripping her cheeks painfully. Do not make me hurt you, child. He glared down at her, his voice a low growl. I shall take no pleasure in it, but I will have my answers. His thumb stroked her cheek, biting just below her sealed eye. For what purpose were you made? She looked down her chin into her chest, ashamed. To burn. And will you? When she didn't respond quickly enough, he gave her a fierce shake. Answer me! His words sparked an ember of defiance in her. I will not. For some reason, that seemed to darkly amuse him. His grip on her slackened and head bowed as a low, rueful chuckle leaped from his lips. Here at last, you speak true. How easily you cast aside the reason for your birth, forsaking that which was granted you. I almost envy your courage, but much has been kept from you as well. He leaned in closer, pressing his helm to her forehead. Just as Mother Marika sealed mine's strength, so too did she seal something of yours. Melina struggled against him. You are not even aware of it, are you? He clicked his tongue. Here, let me show you. Show me? Your true self, of course. Dread coiled within her like the serpent that loomed before them. Her eye. He wouldn't. Oh, blast it all, the man was insane. Of course he would. She seized his wrist. Please don't. Mesmer ignored her, fingers digging into her sealed eye. It will only hurt for a moment, I assure you. Pain flared through her face as his hand bit into the brand over her eyelid, surging with flame. Frantic, she stabbed at him, only for his serpent to ensnare her wrist. So fearful of your true self, he crooned. Worry not, dear sister. Mesmer's fingers dug in, and she felt something stir deep within. Her sealed eye snapped open, burning a beautiful, baleful blue. 0.0. Freya heard the hoofbeats long before she saw the horse. It began as a distant clamour, a steady thump-thump-thump that hearkened to her heart like the drums of a great hunt, out for blood. It reminded of old times, happier times, simpler times, fighting on the fields of Caelid beside General Radahn, sword and shield in hand. cutting down clean-rot knights left, right and centre, her blood singing, watching in horror as the flower of rot bloomed before her. Someone whistled and reality snapped back. Raising a spyglass to her helm, she squinted at the rapidly approaching rider. A warrior on horseback clad in, wait, was that her lord's armour? Smaller perhaps, and resized to fit this one no doubt, while also lacking his horned helm. But she knew it well, just as she did the weaponry on his back. Her lord's swords. How dare he? Indignant, she stowed the spyglass, drew herself up from the sight of Grace, and braved her blade in both hands. Halt! Much to her surprise, the warrior complied. He could have ridden right past her, and she would have been unable to ride him down. Instead, he hopped down from his mount, which dissolved into a strange blue mist as he alighted in a pointed crouch before her. Curious, was that spectral steed he rode? No, put it out of your mind. There were other concerns at hand. Lord Radahn deserved an honourable death. Not to have someone wearing his arms and armour and parading them about as though they were his own. It galled her as nothing had ever galled her before. True, she was slow to anger, but when her wrath was roused, it was great indeed. She found herself hating this blonde despite not even knowing his name. You who have dishonoured my lord, name yourself at once. She brandished her blade at the brave blonde brute, so that I might spit upon your corpse. Much to her surprise, the newcomer laughed ruefully, his blue eyes crinkling, whiskered cheeks dimpling in awkward mirth. About that, a shimmer of blue line shone over his shoulder and she saw, my Lord Radahn. He was shorter, nearly of a height with them, but that gregarious laugh. Hail, my Lady Freya. The jolly ghost of General waved at her. Lively as ever, I see. She blinked, squinted beneath her helm, then blinked again. My lord? Is that really you? In the flesh. Or, spirit, I suppose. He amended with a rueful chuckle. It's all one in the same, really. The blonde man coughed into his fist. It's really not. Freya shot him a smouldering glower and looked back to her lord. You died at the festival. Jeren told me. He winced. I got better. How are you even— That's not important, he cut in. I have need of you, Freya. Just like that, her face warmed beneath her helmet once more. You what now? We have need of you, her lord elaborated. We've never needed anyone more in our entire life. Her thoughts fizzled out spectacularly. I beg your pardon? Her Lord Radahn held out a hand to her. Will you do me the honour of being our wife? Her mind leaped to the logical conclusion. Was this a proposal? Which meant marriage? No, it was too soon. Much too soon. Her body wasn't ready for any of this. Her heart definitely wasn't. It finally proved too much for her frazzled mind. Freya's back struck the ground in a dead faint. Radahn tilted his spectral head. Was it something I said? I was going to say guide. Naruto clapped a palm to his own. Damn it, Radahn. Chapter 31. I want those swords. They're awesome. I beg your pardon? You can't just say such a thing out of the blue. Can have an Imagona say it again. Gimme. We barely know one another. Tilda, twin moons. Grail regarded the gaping crater in the snowy ground with a petulant frown. Lanciax tilted her head beside her. Think they fell in? A shrug. One way to find out. Banzai. She tucked her wings in and dove. Into the shadows. 0.0, 0.0. Moonrithel never saw her doom until it was too late. One moment she was standing guard before Lady R'hllana's chamber. In the next, watch out, watch out, watch out! Something struck her and sent her spinning into a wall, knocking her helmet askew. From there she stumbled, only for someone to catch her in their arms. Huh. A bright, glowing man with golden eyes stared down at her through her blurry vision. So you're a brunette? Never would have thought that. Nice brown eyes. She tried to speak, really, she did. Alas, all that emerged as a soft, disbelieving, "Buh. Sorry. He dropped her and kicked backward with a laugh. I'll talk to you later. Have fun with Freya, you know. Baffled, the carrion knightess could only tilt her head and blink at the golden streak as it raced past. Her head titled further. By the moon and the stars, what was that and where can I get one? She was still balking when Freya hit her from behind like a ton of bricks. He's taken. T.0, 0.0. R'hllana stood ready. Blades in hand, she stood before the gate. She could hear the sounds of combat from without. He was coming. Long had she heard tell of an arrogant outlander tearing through the realm of shadow like a hurricane. a tarnished of great renown and strength, obliterating all resistance and rapidly drawing allies to his side. Rumours ran rife and thick within the castle. Some said he was a monster who lived only to rip and tear, a vengeful wraith come to punish them for their transgressions against the Haunsant. Still others believed him to be an envoy of Marika herself, sent to guide them back to the Erd Tree. A select few even claimed he was Miquella reborn, that his silver tongue won over adversary after adversary. Regardless of who or what he was, knew he would work his way over here sooner or later, as was his wont. If a fight was to be had, he would not best it. She was the sword of Mesmer, not some untrained pup, and she would not be caught unawares. But she was so bloody bored. When was he going to arrive? How long must she hold this pose? How long did she have to wait before she was finally fulfilled? Bitter thoughts crept in despite her best efforts. Mesmer was grand, really he was, but he hadn't paid any attention to her in well over a century. She wanted to be seen. She wanted to be adored. She wanted to be loved. She, who had thrown away her inheritance for the sake of this noble crusade, cast aside all semblance of dignity and honour. And for what? No! Stay strong. She wasn't thirsty no matter what anyone said, and she would not be, aha! Movement. The fog door rippled before her, and he finally emerged at long last. The first thing she noticed were his eyes, those piercing orbs of brightest blue. Next, his scruffy blonde hair, in dire need of a haircut. Last came his whiskered cheeks, dimpled in a selfsame smile, and his body, clad in strangely familiar armour. How quaint. It felt as though she'd seen it somewhere before long ago, yet the memory was long forgotten. After so many years spent here in the realm of shadow, it was bitterly difficult to recall anything of meaningful import. Such was the manner of her exile. But no matter. Here at last she would have purpose again, if only for a short while. She intended to savour it. Scowling beneath her helm, she edged forward. And who art thou, stranger? Nobody important. The newcomer clasped both hands behind his head, surveyed his surroundings for a moment, and beamed at her. Just passing through. Although, you got any idea where I can find this Mesmer guy? Freya was pretty scarce on details. She said to head for the castle, but I think I got the wrong one. He sought Lord Mesmer. Why? Was he here to kill him? For what purpose do you seek the Lord Impaler? Lord Impaler, huh? He crossed both arms before his chest and squinted at her. I guess you could say I want to have a chat with him. What manner of chat? The blonde beamed. I just want to talk with him. She wasn't falling for that. Doubtless this miscreant meant to murder the man she loved. Love, a nasty little voice laughed at her, and belatedly she realised it was her own. He's scarcely said 10 words to us in the last year. Stop. What was the last thing he said to us? Oh yes, I remember. She did not wish to recall it. You are in the way. Stop! Bridling, the former princess drew herself up and shook free from her doldrums to glare at this hoodlum. I am R'hllana, Sword of Mesmer, and you shall not reach him so long as I live. Much to her great dismay, the young man actually perked up at her declaration. Wait, you're his sworn sword? I am, she preened, puffing out her chest. Great. The nameless blonde slapped a fist into an open palm. That's perfect. You must be best buddies then. R'hllana winced. Okay, that silence of yours is telling me otherwise, so, friends? The wince became a whine. Colleagues? She studiously averted her gaze. Do you even talk to him? Was that the sound of her pride crumbling to ash? Ah, I get it. Young man made an exasperated little noise. He doesn't pay any attention to you at all, does he? Emotional damage to the extreme. All right, he finished with a shake of the head. Seems I've misjudged things here. Sorry. He clasped his hands and bowed deeply at the waist. I'll just be going, won't be taking up any more of your day. Was he implying that fighting her would be a waste of time? R'hllana's temper snapped. Wait, he paused. For what? She couldn't bear it, couldn't tolerate his existence any longer. In a matter of moments, he had trampled over her pride and made her face an ugly truth. She was pining in a castle for a man who would never come. All this time spent waiting, wanting, wailing, all for naught. She admired Mesmer greatly, but if felt the same, nay, if he experienced even the smallest iota of the yearning that burned in her own breast, then surely he would have come to see her by now, rather than sending her away. He did not care for her, not one jot. The realization stung her like an angry asp. And this man, this oaf, was responsible for it all. You good? Look, if things aren't good with you and this Mesmer guy, maybe I can help, Rolana rounded on her intruder with a snarl. If you won't hold your tongue, then I will gladly remove it for you. He balked. What did I even do? You were born. She slashed at him in a flurry of blows, only for him to weave his way away from the fog door, forcing her to give chase. You have stolen my honor, and the debt must be paid. But I want to keep my runes. I didn't mean those, you son of a whore. Without warning, he caught her blades, one to each hand. Let me stop you there. He grinned up at her, eyes smouldering gold. My mum was a very nice lady, and I didn't come here to be insulted, you know. He side-eyed her blades with intent. Nice swords you got there. 0.0, 0.0. Radahn watched the brawl begin. He'd chosen to stay in spectral form for the duration of the duel. The reason seemed obvious to him. He wasn't dumb. Really, he wasn't. He just didn't understand things sometimes. It wasn't his fault, really. Rani and Rykard were the smart ones. He had his own brief flashes of brilliance in battle, but he cared for little without. So here he was, observing, trying no to embarrass his new friend. Just minding his own business, yes, sir, no problems here, no siree. Nice swords you got there. Naruto patted the still-stowed blades on his back. Mine are bigger. Rada tilted his head, even as Rolana gulped. That said, I love those weapons of yours. He chirruped happily. Can I have them if I win? Rolana's gulp became a strangled squeak. We barely know one another. Yeah, so? Radahn bit his fist to stifle a silent snicker in the background. Did his friend have any idea what he was implying? He didn't know about Carrion tradition, did he? No, nay, not at all. He happily let Naruto dig that hole. He would have handed him a shovel to help, if he could. Naruto advanced, heedless of the angry woman he was unwittingly wooing. 0.0, 0.0. Her foe advanced. Light flared to life on his body, burning bright blindingly. The Saurus wasn't fire, but runes. No, great runes. So any of them. Where had he, when had he? Would you believe I'm only missing 3? He granted her a cheeky grin, even as he continued to force her backward, step by startling step. Michaela, Millennia, and Rani. Once I get those 3, I can finally get into that tree and end this wild journey of mine. But before it ends, I've got some loose ends to tie up. So, he flung his arms up, forcing her swords high. As she reeled, he drew a fist back with devastating intent. Pardon the pun here, but it's time to say goodnight, Moon. Rolana never saw the punch that rang her helmet like a gong, but she felt it. Frantic, she twisted herself aside to avoid the follow-up no. He'd hit her anyway. Her helmet dented and she saw stars, the very moon and the cosmos. Pivoting, despite the black spots dancing before her vision, she thrust both blades forward, aiming to catch him in a pincer. He parried her, once, twice, thrice. 4, 5, 6, no dice! She howled at him. Cease that at once. He did not. Much to her annoyance, the interloper's palm flicked out and slapped her right blade aside, followed by her left, then right, then left, yet again. Each strike was diverted with glowing grace, superior skill and a terrible twist, each one of which nearly wrenched her wrists from their sockets. It hurt. It hurt, it hurt, it hurt! Perhaps worst of all was the smile, like he pitied her. As though he understood her plight, her blind loyalty, her dauntless devotion to Lord Mesmer. He said he could help, that he could fix things. Liar. Like all the rest. She didn't believe him. Nary a word. She already knew. She'd known from the beginning that Mesmer was lost in his hate. There was naught she could do. She hated it, almost as much as she hated herself, as she hated this fop of a fool before her. As though sensing that thought, the glowing whiskered warrior scowled. You want me to stop parrying? Fine. His fist rocketed in and struck her helm, rending the metal asunder. It flew clean off her head and ruined her long braid, sending her dark hair billowing out behind her. She clawed at her face, dragging her fingers down her forehead to wipe blood away to no avail. It dripped down into her eyes and stained her world red. Somehow that made him even more terrifying. Well, I'll be. He paused, frowning at her. You kinda look like Renala. Her thoughts fizzled to dying embers. How do you know that name? The whiskered warrior would not answer. Fear gripped her heart. How do you know that name? Well, I met her, obviously. The blonde beamed. She's a very nice lady. Shame about her kids, though. The fiend? He'd slaughtered them, hadn't he? If she hadn't been mad before, she was furious now. Enough! Her blade bit into the stone floor as she righted herself. You mock me, denigrate me at every turn, and now you make light of slaughtering my own kin. In a fit of pique, set her left blade ablaze and ignited her right with moonlight, bathing the room in their eerie glow. Enough of thee! I shall have thy corpse carted out for the crows. To her great dismay, the sight of her ignited weapons only intrigued him. That settles it! Those swords are awesome. Are you sure I can't have 'em if I win? Rolana's face flushed beneath her helm anew. Have her swords? Was he so stubbornly speaking of marriage? I beg your pardon? You can't just say such a thing out of the blue. Can, have, and am gonna say it again. Gimme! She shrank back. We barely know one another. I fail to see your point. Rolana took a deep breath to center herself and focused. Mustn't let him get under her skin. She would not falter here. A carrion phalanx did naught to him. He took the hits and barreled right through. She met him with blazing blades in hand. Slash after slash, sweep after her sweep with her glintstone greatsword to no avail. Ducking a sideswipe, he caught the blue cloth of her armour and yanked, hauling her off balance in spectacular fashion. From there, he swept her legs and knocked her right on her arse, as she hadn't been since she was a child. Had enough yet? Her face flushed. Never! She summoned her signature sorcery and dropped twin moons down on his head. Then, while he was stunned, she came smashing in for a third strike, knocking him down at last, and... Not bad, he rasped a laugh. I'd almost forgotten what pain felt like. What was this chill? He was down on his knee, yet for some reason she found herself loath to approach him. Rolana stowed her swords, grabbed him by the neck, and wrenched him into a wall. Wait, she had him by the throat. So why was he smiling? Naruto grinned, heedless of the blood on his face, the fingers biting down into his windpipe, even the wall he was being crushed into. Not bad. He gripped her wrist, locked his legs around her arm, and latched on like a limpet. Let's kick it up a notch or two. His entire body twisted to the right, defying momentum, gravity, inertia, all of it to wrest her down to the ground. An open palm smashed into her ribs and she went flying. Righting herself, she glimpsed his grinning face. Something shimmering over his back. No, someone. Are you quite done playing with her? Yeah. He cracked his neck. I guess. Phase 2 then? Let's. Her eyes bulged. Phase what? She never found out what he meant by that. Up came his arms, ripping black greatswords from his back. Another memory stirred, only to shatter as he brandished those menacing weapons, threw his head back and howled at the sky. The rest, as they say, was history. Mighty gravity magic hauled her inward, shattering her stance and breaking her poise. His blades arced up and came crashing down. Frantic, she tried to raise her blade, crossing them in an X shape before her bloodied face. Had to block. Too late. He slapped them aside and barreled through. The sheer force of the impact shattered her guard, sundered her armor, and... darkness. She must have blacked out for a moment, because when she came to, she found herself lying in deep crater. Panic bleated in her. No! Mustn't admit defeat. Wasted and gasping for air, she hauled herself upright and planted her rightmost sword in a stone to steady her wavering body. Bits of broken armor sloughed from her shoulders and back, and distantly she became aware of the cool breeze against her bosom. She dare not look down for fear of what she might find there. Breathe. Had to breathe before Naruto showed no mercy. Aura. A knee whistled in out of nowhere and struck her chin, snapping her head back. A fist found her throat, then her gut, now her chest, blasting the breath from her lungs. She tried to riposte, only to find herself countered once more. The follow-up raked across her armor and broke 3 ribs, rendering her retort a gasping wheeze. Stop! Parrying! Me! And he did. Fine. You said no more parrying. He dropped off his blades and swept a hand up, conjuring a massive sphere of light. So parry this, you filthy casual. His arm swept and she tried. She really, truly did. Rolana's world went white as the pain. Why was there no pain? She dared to creak an eye open and found herself alive. Relatively intact even, despite her state of undress. Not so the wall opposite her. Craning her neck, she saw the ruined remains, a lack thereof, and balked. That wall was meters thick, impenetrable. Yet now she could see rising sun through the gap. That could have been her just now. One hit from an attack like that, and nothing. No, less than nothing. She would cease to exist. A bead of sweat ran down her brow as she looked the intruder's way, but no follow-up attack came. Instead, he offered her his hand. "I'm sorry." He smiled down at her, framed in the light of the sun. "Someone like you deserves all the attention in the world, and all the love, too. I hope you find someone special someday. I'll let you be now." Her heart thudded most painfully. Find someone special, he said. She already had. It was love, not at first sight, or even first fight, but first flight. Because with those words, her heart had taken wing. Mesmer? Who was Mesmer? He didn't even give her the time of day anymore. But now he was leaving, departing just as Mesmer had, abandoning her never to be seen again. "Wait!" she called out after his rapidly retreating back. "I can tell you where Messer is." "You can!" He spun about and latched onto her hands with a boyish grin, a smile so pure that she couldn't help but squeak. "Great!" Her face went 7 shades of rose red and scarlet besides. "Wah!" Naruto frowned, not comprehending her words. "You all right there?" She could feel the room spinning. Ye gods, but she had never held hands with a man before. Absently, Naruto noticed her blades fallen at their feet. Releasing her right hand while still holding onto her left, he knelt and retrieved it. She couldn't help but notice that it was the very same blade of fire that she had forged for Mesmer so very long ago. "So, since I won..." Holding it aloft, he beamed at her. "I can keep this, right? If that's all right with you." Rilana found herself nodding absently, too dazed to speak. Sweet. Realization struck a moment later. Her sword. He had her sword. She'd just given him one of her prized weapons. Sure, there wasn't a ring on her finger, but still. Her own sword. His hand. Holding. Rilana swayed on her feet. Were they engaged now? Was this marriage? By all Carrion rites and traditions, that would be an emphatic affirmative. Well, darn. From single to married in less than an hour. Big Sister was never going to let her live this down. A mad, disbelieving giggle fled from her trembling lips. Naruto frowned. "Are you sure you're all right?" Rilana kept laughing. Yes, just fine." 0.0. 0.0. Achoo! Leagues away, Renala sneezed. "My little sister is up to no good again, it seems." Chapter 32. Congratulations. You're married. What? Tilda? Happy nuptials. Interlude. Radahn was smug. Naruto didn't know why, he didn't know how. And truth be told, he didn't know when it began. But he could sense the good general's mirth all the same, without having to see it. The demigod didn't deign to manifest himself after his duel with Rilana for reasons he couldn't understand. Yet he felt his emotions simmering at a low boil. Like a man holding back a great peal of laughter at a joke only he understood. Had he done something funny? He didn't think so. Kurama heaved a sigh into his ear. "You cannot be this dense, brat. It's just not possible. I don't even know Carrion traditions, and I still figured this out an hour ago." "Figure what out?" His brow furrowed as followed Rilana deep into the Shadow Keep, noting distinct the lack of enemies. "Any chance you could tell me?" "No, nope, negatory. All the runes in the lands between couldn't make me step on this landmine for you. I choose life." There it was again, the implication that he'd done something by defeating Rilana. But what? Sure, he'd bested the tall lady in single combat and claimed a sword from her. Thus far, the twin moon had proven herself a woman of her word. She was all too happy to lead him into Mesmer's domain, only occasionally glancing back at him for reasons he couldn't quite comprehend. Also, for some reason, she became terribly red whenever he mentioned that sword she'd given him, which was fairly often because, hey, rare sword that spits flame. Of course he was going to talk about that, but he still didn't understand what the big deal was. Yeah, he was missing something here, he just knew it. But what exactly? Kurama stoically held his tongue and refused to answer him. There was no one else to ask. Freya had peeled off from the group first chance she got and dragged Moonrithel with her. Something about finding a library and hunting down a man called Ansbach. More power to her, he supposed. He wouldn't say no to another ally in these trying times. They still needed to find Melina, Millicent, and Latenna. Sage knew where those 3 had landed in the Shadow Realm. But the longer his questions went unanswered, the more pressing they became. Fine, desperate times called for desperate measures. Oi, Radahn. Come on out. Right on cue, His spectral ally manifested over his shoulder in a rush of blue light, wearing a cheery grin, gleeful as can be. "You rang?" "Yeah, I did," he grumbled under his breath, "and I'm going to ring your head like a bell if you don't tell me why you're smiling." "Perhaps I'm simply in the mood for some more jolly cooperation?" Naruto's sword arm came up. "Radahn, you're about to be rad done if you keep teasing me like that." "Forgive me, it's nothing so dangerous." His ancient ally drifted back out of blade range. "Be assured she means you no harm." "Quite the opposite, really." "Can't you just tell me?" A hand clapped his shoulder. "I could, but then I would be culpable to the chaos that follows. I would rather not disturb my mother's wrath." Wait, why would Ranala be angry? Ralana's her sister, isn't she? Little sister, actually. Naruto's sword sparked with fresh fire. All right. The smile of Rani's brother really was far too smug for his enjoyment. "Allow me to give you a hint. My aunt likes you, methinks." Naruto recoiled, somewhat taken aback by the insinuation. "She does not." A placid blink followed. "And why shouldn't she?" He glanced Ralana's way, thankfully she was far enough ahead not to hear them. I kicked her butt." He flailed his hands, trying to find something else to grasp at, and found little else. "There's just no way, nope, nuh-uh, not possible." "Can't be. And this is a problem because... Was it not you who told her to find love and happiness?" "Well, yeah, but nobody should like anyone after an ass-kicking like that." "I beg to differ." The ghostly general furled a finger and flicked his forehead. "Your track record with tall women rather speaks for itself. And besides, she gave you one of her swords, did she not?" Naruto idly laid a hand upon the hilt of his new fiery blade, humming in confusion. "Is that supposed to mean something? I mean, it's a very nice sword and all, but..." Radahn waggled a red brow at him. "I believe Ralana's rather interested in another blade." Naruto tilted his head and squinted. "I'm not sure I follow." A rare flicker of irritation crossed his battle brother's ghostly visage. "My brother-in-arms, may I speak plainly?" "Sure." Radahn raised a single finger. "Do you think carrion princesses just hand out swords to every man who defeats them?" His train of thought ran over a rock and hitched. "Wait a minute there. Rellen's a princess." "Former princess, technically," the first Redmane shrugged expansively. "My dear aunt gave up her birthright in pursuit of Mesmer long ago. But yes, she was a princess, nevertheless. And how did that turn out for her? I needn't spell it out for you. Thou canst see it for thine self." He risked a glance back at the twin moon knight herself, looking a little forlorn as she tirelessly forged on ahead. Forgotten and forsaken, abandoned in all but name, and ignored by the very man she once desired above all else. What should he say to that? What could he possibly say to make it right? Nothing at all. So he listened instead. "I too know how it feels to fruitlessly chase after another, to have your feelings go unrequited for years on end." The general ground one ghostly hand into an open palm and growled a sigh akin to that of a slow-moving avalanche tearing down the side of a mountain. "It is torment, agony, death by 1,000 cuts, a pain I would not wish upon even Millennia herself. Yet you have helped my aunt turn a page there, whether you know it or not." Naruto flung up his hands. But what does this have to do with swords?" A spectral fist thumped him hard over the head, drawing a pained grunt as he doubled over. Radahn quirked a brow. "Are you quite done shouting? Or would you rather my aunt hear all this?" He rubbed his skull. "McKay, this has everything to do with swords. The blade she gave you? That signifies a promise. A bond, a commitment, if you will. It is essentially a pact between two souls signifying no." "I've already said too much." Radahn opened his mouth to reply, closed it now, opened it again, then seemed to think better of himself. "If she gives you a ring for safekeeping, be a good lad and think about it before you wear the bloody thing, all right?" Something sparked in the back of his head as the proverbial wires finally crossed. All this talk of swords, and now a ring, claims that Ralana fancied him. Oh! Ah! Walking suddenly became a conscious effort on his part, breathing even more so. Craning his neck, he made certain their guide wasn't looking their way. While no enemies had reared their heads, she seemed blissfully ignorant of their conversation. Or perhaps she too was lost in her own little world at the moment. Only then did he whip around and hiss at Radahn, blue eyes bulging in his head. "Did I just accidentally a marriage?" Not quite the proper sentence structure, but yes. Glad you finally realized. Welcome to the family. A keening whine escaped Naruto's mouth. But why me? Because you are willing to listen where Mesmer would not, Radahn said. Because you knocked my aunt out of her doldrums and led her back to the light. And, perhaps most important of all, because she has become fond of you. If she weren't, she would have tried to take that sword back by now. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. Naruto looked down to his blade, fingers idly curling about the handle. Marriage. It felt kinda nice to know that someone besides Grail wanted him that badly. Flattering, really. Oh gods, Grail was going to lose her mind. To say nothing of Melina and everyone else. But then Radahn nudged him with a spectral arm. And how do you feel? I don't know. From a superficial view, one could say Rilana was a tall, beautiful woman, and she filled out her armor quite nicely. But he cared for more than skin-deep beauty. He knew her soul was wounded by her long loneliness, but beyond that, she didn't seem like a bad person. Just someone who had lost their way. One who didn't realize that there was still good in this world, someone who needed a helping hand. Isn't helping people your shtick these days? Oh, now you chime in. Where were you when I needed you? With a keening hum, Marika's rune ring on Naruto's finger zapped him indignantly, pulling a yelp from his lips. Radahn noticed. Seems my stepmother isn't best pleased by this. I'll leave you to it then. Shaking his head, he trudged after Rilana, who deigned to wait for him near a ladder. He could sense her curiosity, her questions about Radahn, the burning need to know why her nephew was bound to him in soul and spirit, but mercifully she refrained from speaking them. Instead, she gestured to the long ladder and stepped back. Then, in a quiet voice, "Could you please go first?" "Why?" The Lady Knight stared stoically at her feet and squirmed like a smitten schoolgirl. A rare flash of realization dawned. She didn't want him staring at her backside while she climbed. Understandable. Up they went. Rilana led him on a wandering, meandering path that seemed to lead them incessantly upward, through a number of adversaries, none of which, curiously, made so much as a move toward them. A few knights bowed for her, others made commiserating noises, a few even dared to shake their heads, but to a one not a single soul dared to attack either of them. None even went for their weapons. Curious. When asked why, the Moon Knightess had the good grace to look embarrassed. I have come this way a great many times to visit Lord Mesmer. I am known to these soldiers. Naruto squinted at her, concerned. How many times a day we talking about here? She tented her fingers and looked away. Mayhaps a few dozen. And did this Mesmer guy ever talk to you? Not terribly often, no. Less and less as the years went by. An adorable flush tinted her pale face, contrasting nicely with her dark hair. But that's not a problem now, is it? After all. It very much was a problem, now that Radahn had finally clued him in on their, Gah! He couldn't bring himself to say the word. Even now he found his gaze lingering upon Rilana's rosy cheeks, her pensive expression as she bit her lower lip and squirmed anew, the way she idly rubbed her knees together in thinly veiled anxiety. Ignorance was bliss, and he missed it dearly, because he began to notice these things now, aspects about the Lady Knight that flew clear over his dense head during their first fight. He almost wished he'd remained ignorant. It made him angry not for his sake, but Rilana's. How on earth could anyone turn away someone so loyal, so determined, so... Unbidden, his tongue betrayed him spectacularly. Oh, beautiful. Rilana squeaked and spun around. Onward. Reluctantly they climbed ever upward, and the world spun on. And on, and on. 0.0, 0.0. Fire stiffened. Frowned ever so slightly now. How strange, I sense a disturbance. 0.0, 0.0. Halt! None shall approach the... A single arrow was loosed his way with incredible force. Caught unawares by the sudden ambush, Gaius took it in the shoulder and crashed backward off his boar. Latenna lowered her bow with a smug smile and loped forward on her recently restored legs. Thou wert saying, cousin? 0.0, 0.0. Romina raised her arms high. Children of the tower! Welcome our new sister. The butterflies sang and danced amidst the rot, and from the mire, Millicent rose. 0.0, 0.0. They stood before a pair of black iron doors. Jammed at first, a few solid blows from him, Rilana soon forced the gateway to open wide, yawning like the jaws of some great beast. No resistance emerged to stop them. No alarm sounded. Nothing at all. Together, the two of them pushed the doors down, ducked their heads to enter, and bulled through. Naruto half expected darkness within. Instead, he found himself greeted sea of candles with only a single darkened corner hidden in the gloom. It looked almost empty at a glance. So where in blazes was this Mesmer guy? How kind of you to bring the intruder to me, Rolana. The twin moon tensed, but Naruto scarcely noticed. Instead, his gaze snapped to the middle of the room and found a red-headed man seated upon what appeared to a throne of some sort. He hadn't seen him there before, impossible as it sounded, as though he had appeared out of nowhere, emerging from the darkness itself. Rolana hissed out a breath. Mesmer, his good golden eye narrowed upon her. I am your lord, Rolana. Or have you forgotten? She barked a bitter laugh. You are my lord no longer. Is that so? A pity. You were a most useful pawn. Lounging almost lazily in his seat, the stranger righted himself to peer at Naruto. Tarnished, art thou? We have been expecting thee. I had thought we might have to hunt for thee, but for you to come straight to us, well. He raised a hand, conjuring a baleful red flame to his palm as he rose, bathing his visage in wicked light. We couldn't be happier. His blood froze. We? The doors slammed shut behind them, sealing him and Rolana within. Radon hissed in his head. It's a trap. Oh yes, I will not abide a lord devoid of light. Mesmer, this must be him, looked past himself now, craning his neck back to peer into the gloom. Isn't that right, little sister? A baleful blue eye opened in the dark, burning impossibly bright, and then she emerged from the gloam-filled gloom. Naruto tensed despite himself. Melina? Chapter 33. A knight is sworn to valor. His heart knows only virtue. His blade defends the helpless. His might upholds the weak. His word speaks only truth. His wrath undoes the wicked. Tilda a legend. Open your eyes. Melina stared. Naruto stared back. Neither of them moved an inch. Poor Rolana found herself caught in the midst of it all, looking this way and that, utterly at a loss, torn between comforting him and haranguing Mesmer. Naruto barely noticed her. Granted, he knew she was there, barely a stone's throw behind him, hand on his shoulder for comfort. And he appreciated that, really, he did. His attention was simply elsewhere at the moment. Because, you see, Melina looked different. More than that, she was changed, her appearance radically altered since he'd seen her last. An eerie aura emanated from her, one he couldn't quite place. Gloam eye aside, he could tell she'd been through hell. Her once immaculate hair now resembled little more than a rat's nest of tangled snarls and knots in need of a good brushing. Stranger still, her traditional garments and hooded cloak were nowhere to be seen, traded away for a flowing black dress, rather reminiscent of what one might wear at a funeral. Or a wedding, if one were feeling particularly grim. And her skin, oh gods! He'd seen her burn scars before when they lay together, but now those almost seemed to glow, as though lit from within, shimmering with dark light, as though she were burning from the inside out. There was something about those flames. The sight of them sent a chill shooting down his spine as nothing had before. He watched an ember of it curl around her shoulders before swirling downward, curling into her right palm. His sixth sense shrieked and the great runes trembled in his chest, telling him to run, to flee, to fly, to get away, away from that fire. Back away now. Kurama hissed out an anxious breath in his ear. Slowly, retreat. Why would he do such a thing? This was Melina, right? His tongue betrayed him. Melina? Run, you idiot! Nonsense. Surely he was overreacting, right? She stared at him and he saw no recognition in either of her eyes. Melina! He raised his voice, daring a step forward. You're still Melina, right? Come on, say something! Here at last her gaze narrowed, comprehending him at last. But her gaze was far too sharp for his liking. Kneel. Confusion flowered within him and blinked at her, baffled. Kneel? What are you talking about, Mel? I said kneel. Her right hand snapped up and a wave of black-on-white fire surged up out of her palm, forcing him and Rolana to leap away. They landed on opposite ends of the room, far apart from one another. He had time enough to glance her way before another blast of death surged his way. He swept up a palm, intent on deflecting it. Radahn's spirit barked a warning. Don't let it touch you! It nearly came too late. His arm snapped back and his body tumbled into a clumsy roll as the air sizzled where he'd been standing. She was waiting for him as he sprang to his feet, dagger in hand. He caught her wrist and wrenched it back, only to find himself surprised as she swept an open palm up into his face, sparking with fresh fire. Gripping that wrist in turn, Naruto forced both arms over Melina's head in an attempt to disarm her, only for her to plant both feet in his chest and push. "Hey!" he grunted. "Hold on a sec, ow!" Unprepared to break her arms, he forfeited the contest of strength entirely, allowing her to kick back off him and fly to freedom. That short flight saw her land not 3 yards away from him. From there, she rose to her feet with an almost lazy grace. He had no doubt she could close the distance in an instant if she so chose. "Kneel before me, you who would be Elden Lord." When she spoke again, he couldn't help but notice her voice thrummed eerily, as though something else were speaking with her, beside her, through her. "Swear fealty to me and me alone, and in recompense for thy deeds in protecting mine vessel thus far, I shall name thee my consort in the age to come." What is that even supposed to mean? The longer she looked at him like that, the more he felt the cracks in his heart widen, begin to break. "Melina, please snap out of it. I am not Melina." The baffling being before him blinked slowly, sleepily. "I am a Neelam. You address the glow-eyed queen, mortal. Prostrate yourself." "Glow-eyed what now?" Her dagger stabbed in at his right eye, and he dodged nimbly, giving ground as she gave chase, unwilling to hurt her. His brain buzzed for a moment more before he understood. What she'd said just now, that was an anagram of some sort. Anilem was Melina spelled backwards, wasn't it? There was something else at work here. Dark forces he didn't understand, and they had everything to do with that eerie eye of hers now, didn't they? Just what had he stumbled into here? A stray strand of blonde hair fluttered to the ground as her knife came a touch too close for his liking. "Enough!" He slammed a fist down and the stone ruptured beneath his knuckles, launching Melina backward. Much to his annoyance, she vaulted to safety, leaving him glaring up at her from the crater he'd created. A low chuckle pervaded the room, and belatedly he remembered they weren't alone. "Magnificent, isn't she?" Mesmer stepped forth and laid a hand on Melina's shoulder. He refused to call her anything else, smiling like the sly serpent he was. "Mother may have sealed her power away as she did mine, even made her forget herself, but she failed to extinguish her consciousness fully." A hand traced her face, sparking his rage further still. "She was always here, right beneath the surface, waiting to take back control. I simply gave her the means to do so. That said, I simply must thank you for bringing my sister back to me. Together we will burn Mesmer." Relana finally lost her patience and dove at him, sword swinging. Blast! He'd forgotten about her. A flash of flame and she found herself blocked by a long lance, their weapons clashing harshly, sparks flying. I see. Mesmer considered her intently across their interlocked weapons. "So you betrayed me as well? A pity. I had thought you loyal." The Twin Moon Knight bridled. "I cannot betray that which was never given." Such tripe. Naruto clicked his tongue and moved to help, only for Melina to leap down into the crater and bar his path, drawing an aggravated shout from his lips. "Melly, come on. Now's not the time." The glow-eyed queen stepped forward, her face deceptively blank. "Will you kneel?" It would be easier if he pretended to, but he knew she'd see right through it. Besides, he was Naruto Uzumaki. He wasn't the sort to lie, ever. His eyes met hers. "Not to you. Not like this." I see." He dodged around her only to find himself trapped in a cage of deathly flame. He nearly ran headlong into the bars before Radahn reeled him back in. "Don't try it, my friend. Not here. Even you won't escape those flames unscathed in the realm of shadows." "Kneel," the queen intoned anew outside his cell, "or she will die." He knew what would happen if he submitted. "Never. Give Melina back." "Do you not see?" A pale, scarred hand reached through the blazing bars to stroke his cheek. "There is no Melina." For a fleeting moment, her face softened. "There never was." "Even if there were, she no longer exists." Her nails bit into his whiskered visage, drawing a hiss of pain from him. "The woman you claim to love was mine sealed self, ignorant and powerless, born to burn and nothing else." The words were akin to a slap in the face, a desecration of everything she'd ever said and done. For her to say something like that, Melina couldn't be gone. She just couldn't. That was impossible. Relana cried out in pain just out of sight, but I was aware. The gloam-eyed queen crooned, caressing his cheek. I saw thee, I watched thee, I observed thee in my dreams. All this time I looked on as thou guided my pitiful self to glory. She drew his face to hers, forcing their foreheads to touch through the bars. You were faithful, you were loyal, and you were true. You brought me to my destiny, unwitting though you were, and for that I will be forever grateful. Her lips closed around his, cold as death, stifling his protest. Together we will crush that wretched black blade, reclaim my true power, and usher in an age of fire. True power? This was her in a weakened state? Stop! Naruto shook his head, trying to break free from her. You're lying. The queen's fingers stroked his face. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. His eyes burned with tears, tears that turned to steam, such was the heat. Can't you just give her back? A pause followed, long and poignant. Her gloam eye closed for a moment, then opened anew. Such is no longer within my power. It was too much for his heart to bear. His body burst into light. Liar! Flaring his chakra, he drew a kunai from his belt to slash at her, forcing her to retreat or lose the limb entirely. Bereft of its target, the knife impacted the bars of his burning cage instead and promptly crumbled to dust. As would his weapons, as would he, if the flames found his flesh. Even then he nearly lashed out anyway, such was his rage. Kurama and Radan's presence stopped him, but only just. So be it. The gloam-eyed queen, Anilem, stared back at him, her newly opened eye reflecting only mild displeasure. Now your knight will die. Perhaps then you will be more pliable. Naruto went mad. Snarling and shouting and screaming, he beat at the bars with arms of purest chakra, smashed a Rasengan against them, followed by a Rasen Shuriken. Even a Bijudama point blank succeeded only in burning himself. Kurama's chakra did nothing against the bars and the cage held below him as well as above. There was no escape. Perhaps had been in his right mind, he would have thought of some clever solution. As things stood, he could only focus on the burning need to get out now before Rellana got hurt or worse. The gloam-eyed queen stared at him intently throughout. You will learn to love me, in time. Infuriated beyond words, Naruto looked past her and finally beheld a battered Rellana through the crackling flames, only to find her struggling against Mesmer anew. Braving her lone blade with both hands, the twin moon knight pushed against the Lord Impaler. For all the good it did her, for all her fury, she couldn't budge him. I gave up everything for you, she growled at him, chest heaving. My name, my title, my throne. I could have become a queen, commanded the whole of Rea Lucaria. Renala never wanted it. Her voice peaked with despair, tears running down her cheeks. And what did you give me in return? Nothing. No, less than nothing, as though such a thing were possible. Even your dogs were given more attention than I. At least they were happy enough to lick your boots. His face closed down. You speak treason, my lady. I am no lady of yours. A small, despairing bark of laughter leaped from her lips. Perhaps I never was. Perhaps I was simply too blind to see it. Perhaps I am the fool here. A flicker of something flashed across the demigod's face, there and gone before he could comprehend what it might be. Whatever it was vanished before he could see it in the flames. Then Mesmer crossed his spear over her lone blade, content to force her down. Your services are no longer required, Rellana snarled up at him. Is that all you have it say to me? I loved you. The realm thanks you for your service. Die as you lived, alone. She sneered at him. My new husband says otherwise. Naruto winced. Oh dear. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. He knew that more than most, having seen his share of angry women in the elemental nations. Rellana was no different in that regard. Mesmer had taken, shaken, then broken her heart, leaving her to pick up the pieces. Of course she hated him, loathed him with all the fury of someone who knew what love was, only to lose it in the end. Small wonder, she said, did something in devilish delight, one final act of spite, one last jab before she said goodnight. But what she'd just done. Naruto palmed his face to hide a fiery flush. Rellana, no. Mesmer drew back, good eye wide. You didn't. We did, she laughed, half crazed with pain. Melina twitched at those words and remarkably, the god-slaying flame cage containing Naruto dimmed. Not enough for him to escape, but to notice? Definitely. Wait a minute! An idea dawned. There might be a way out of this. By the sage Melina, she was absolutely going to pummel his pelvis for this, assuming she didn't just murder him outright. Still, he didn't have any other options at the moment. Radahn slapped his back and absolutely cackled in his ear. A crazy plan is better than no plan at all. Better yet, Messmer was staring, glaring at him, utterly incredulous. You married her, in a sense. He scratched the back of his head. She kinda gave me a sword, and apparently that's a thing where she comes from. Relana's face turned a delightful shade of red, eliciting another twitch on Melina's part. Messmer looked utterly baffled. The sudden admission appeared to have broken him. He didn't even notice Relana limping away. Oh no, he only had eyes for him. A look of complete and utter loathing flashed across that pallidly handsome visage before it drew taut with anger. Enough of this. Kill him and be done with it, sister. Ma? Melina didn't move. Messmer frowned. Sister? Marriage? For once, the dual tenor in the gloam-eyed queen's voice faded. Without me? The pain in her tenor brought him up short. You were wed. Naruto saw his opening and perked up despite his guilt. No way out, but through. Surprise? With a gasp, the fell queen doubled over and clutched at her head. Be quiet. Sorry, not you. Melina, for this was indeed Melina, gnashed her teeth and he couldn't help but notice that her gloam eye had gone dim. Can't you hear her? She's so loud! Sure enough, ear, wicked eye blazed back into brilliance, warping her voice with it. Why do you persist? Begone! A pained scream rattled her as her good eye brightened weakly. Stop! This is my body. You served your purpose. You no longer have any place here. Away with ye. It is you who should depart. Left and right she thrashed, eyes alight, voice changing constantly. Hey, listen! Naruto interjected into the tableau. Listen, if there's anyone you should be angry with it's me. I'm right here. Traitor! Melina rounded on him, anger giving her strength just as he planned. You were to wed no one before me. Just a little more now. It's a long story. Then shorten it, Ga. Her good eye blazed as her gloam-filled orb dimmed, flame flickering around her. Wretched woman! You may have taken my mind and my body, but there is one thing a maiden always keeps. She thrashed to and fro, shaking her head fiercely. A note of panic twisted her expression as the gloam-eyed queen managed one last futile protest. No! Don't you dare! Oh yes, she definitely dared. Her heart! Melina reared back and seized her gloam eye with 3 fingers, gritting her teeth as she forcibly lifted her eyelid to expose the baleful blue orb within. Her left hand grasped her wrist, but she didn't falter, not once. Naruto realized what she was about to do and averted his gaze in the nick of time. Somewhere behind him, Messmer lunged forward with a roar of rage, intent on stopping her. Relana jumped him, bearing him down to the floor in a tangle of arms and legs. And well, that she did too, because Melina plucked. Her eye out. Naruto didn't see the exact moment she did it, but he certainly heard it, that awful tearing noise, the agonized scream, the wet squish of sound that followed. When he looked back, she held her bloodied gloam eye, tightly clutching it between her thumb and forefinger. Gasping for air, she prepared to crush it. This isn't over! The queen's agonized voice arose from the ruined orb. You are not rid of me! Melina popped the eye like a rotten grape and let the detritus fall to the floor, taking her words with it. Bereft of her attention, the cage of fire faded completely, allowing him to tumble to freedom. 3 quick strides carried him to Melina's side to support her, but surprisingly she didn't even seem to notice him. Instead, she rounded on Relana, good eye glaring the wounded knight down. You! The wounded woman squeaked, still pinning Messmer to the floor. Me? He was not yours to marry. I was to be the first. Relana whimpered. I'm sorry, Tild. Enough of this. Messmer bucked, flinging her away into a wall. Righting himself, he affixed his sister with a mournful glower. Sister, what have you done? You've maimed yourself. And for what? For myself. Melina swayed on her feet like a drunkard at last call, blood still leaking from her now closed eye. Naruto silently stepped into her, allowing her to lean against him. She did so, but glared sleepily at him all the same. We will have words about this, my lord. He granted her a watery smile as her good eye drooped. As many as you like. I shall hold thee to that. I desire a ring as well. She collapsed, like a puppet severed from her strings, forcing him to catch her before she could fall. He thought that was the end of it. It was not. A tortured scream laughter arose from Mesmer, shattering his delusion. No, no, no! You've ruined everything. Was that all he had to say? Question mark. After all, he said, all he had done, he never once thought of the pain he had caused Melina. Right, then he needn't feel bad about this. Naruto righted himself with a growl. I'm about to ruin a whole lot more than that. Mesmer made a noise, caught some between a sob and a snarl. Impudent pup! I will not! Whatever else he might have said was silenced by a flying kick. It caught him square in the temple and sent him sprawling to the floor in a heap. Don't give him time to react! Even as he rose, Naruto fell, crashing down onto him from on high, Rasengan in hand. His favorite jutsu slammed home in his adversary's gut. And that was that. The ground burst beneath them, taking a goodly portion of Mesmer's torso with it, annihilating any form of defense he might have managed. His visible eye rolled back into his head as the rest of him went limp beneath him. He did not rise again. Naruto climbed off him, waited a moment to make sure he wouldn't get back up, then stalked away. R'hllana balked at the slaughter, thunderstruck. I had not thought you so ruthless. Had he overdone it? Maybe. Did he feel any regret? Nope. Kneeling before Melina's prone form, he gave the twin Moon Knight a firm glare. He had it coming, she gulped, slightly red in the cheeks. Of that I do not doubt. But Mesmer twitched behind him. For the love of... Naruto spun and launched a Rasen Shuriken at him, hoping to finish him before he could try anything tricky. It was not to be. The slippery redhead tumbled to safety, retrieved his spear and leaned heavily upon it. A glint of wild madness shone through his good eye. Do you think this is over? No! It's over when I say it is over. I will not abide a lord devoid of light. Before he could think to stop him, Marika's firstborn reached up and ripped his lone golden eye from his socket in a shower of blood. Gasping at the pain of such an action, he crushed it in his hand. It shattered not like a thing of flesh, but glass cracking apart into countless golden sparks. As he looked on aghast, a fell fire bloomed from his lean body, lending his already eerie visage an even more ominous aura. His shoulders slumped, yet somehow he stood all the taller for it, his smile a crazed, twisted thing. And the power stemming from him? Kurama swore in his head. That can't be good. I warned you. Radan echoed him. He was the firstborn for a reason. Gingerly, Naruto laid Melina down behind him and turned to face her brother fully. Fine. He stomped a foot. You want round two? Let's have round two. I wasn't done with you anyway. Summoning his spear to hand, the Lord Impaler stalked forward to meet him in return. Soon, tarnished, Mesmer rasped aloud, wilt thou be taken in the jaws of the abyssal serpent, shorn of light. With a wave of his hand, the world dissolved into a savage slurry of snakes. Chapter 34. All right, Mesmer, I have two friends who would just love to meet you. They're called Left and Right. Say hello, Tilda. Tilda a legend. I'm gonna knock you out. R'hllana had witnessed true horror before. Younger than Rena though she might be, her career was no less storied for it. She had seen things. Terrible, horrible things. Sights that would chill the very blood of a lesser warrior. She knew the truth of this world and all that dwelt within it, every secret that had been locked away in the realm of shadows. She knew why this realm had to exist and what it was protecting. Quite simply put, she'd been through a lot of shit. She had once seen the terror of a vengeful goddess lay waste to the foul Haunsant, watched in mute horror as Queen Marika the Eternal waded into the thick of things, annihilating their armies with wide-sweeping swings of her hammer. She'd stood atop heaps of corpses and watched two titans collide, unable to do anything but watch as their clash shook the very world. She'd seen the beautiful patron of the Golden Order beat the life out of the Haunsant's so-called god, leave it within an inch of its life, snatch the treads of divinity from its broken corpse, and offer them to the gate of divinity. She'd seen Marika ascend and later stood here, unable to do anything but balk as Mesmer's mother ripped out her son's own eye and put a seal of grace in its place. It was then that the twin Moon Knight knew she could never return to the lands between. For in her here, she knew she was tainted, if not by deeds, then association. Such was why she had chose to remain, rather than return to Raya Lucaria to live out the rest of her days with Rena. Guilt and grief had compelled her to remain, to live here in safety and security, rather than confront that thing again. The Erd Tree, the Greater Will, the Elden Ring, she wanted no part of it. A fresh explosion of fire snapped her back to reality, accompanied by a howl of pain. R'hllana winced despite herself. There had been a certain nobility in the deeds done during the Hornsent Crusade, at least. Dignity, despite the bloodiness of it all. Purpose, despite the darkness. Everyone had done truly terrible things, yes, but for a purpose. For a better world. In the name of order. There was no such order in this dark place. No kindness of gold to be found, only fire. Fire and blood. Naruto and Mesmer collided in a maelstrom of light and violence with no thought but murder. They fought viciously, trading blows like gods of old back during the darkest days of the Crusade. Wounds were torn asunder only to heal instantly, arms were shorn free and grew back in an instant. And the blood, oh gods, the blood! She could see it on the floor, smell it in the air, practically taste it on her tongue. Still they fought on, fire and shadow, light and darkness. Everything descended into a mad, frenzied fight. She'd always known Mesmer, for all his lack of attention towards her, was a son of Marika and vicious fighter to boot, but now he proved it. 1,000 thrusts of his spear filled the room with fire, seemingly igniting the very air itself. Yet for all that, not a single one landed. Those 1,000 thrusts were met with a dozen dodges, and as impossible as that might sound, not a single strike struck him. Naruto swept low, then high, bringing his blades, the swords of Radan, to bear in a flash of gravity. They bit deep into Mesmer's collarbone, nearly cleaving him in two. And yet, despite that, the first of the demigods only smiled. It was not a nice smile, not by any means. And now the real battle begins. Her former love raised a hand, and every candles in the room guttered out at once, plunging them into darkness. R'hllana inhaled sharply and shivered where she lay on her knees despite herself. She had a great fear of the dark, she always had, ever since she was but a little girl. She'd fought in the dark once before, long ago, when she was but a girl, when she wasn't half the warrior she was now. But there was naught she could do. Wounded as she was, she could only watch over Melina's fallen form. She would make sure she slept soundly at least, safe from all harm. But Naruto, where was he? The world had gone silent and cold, save for the hissing of snakes. Surely they hadn't devoured him? No, nay, never! She refused to accept such. Steel struck steel, and in the sparks that flew forth she glimpsed him at last, just before a massive serpent swallowed him whole. An outraged noise echoed within its maw, and the beast burst like an overripe grape, sending him rocketing backwards to freedom. Mesmer met him halfway, striking at a bad angle. Bad for Naruto, not him. His hands grew back in an instant, not so his weapons. Radan's swords went sailing across the room as he found himself disarmed and kicked away. R'hllana balked, knowing he'd never reach her nephew's weapons in time. Mesmer would never allow it. Naruto might lose, or so she thought, and that thought made her brain bleat with bestial panic. There was only thing she could yet do to assist him, wickedly wounded though she was. And yet the thought made her face burn. She'd already lent him her one blade. Giving him another would surely be truly indecent, R'hllana would say. But, flushing, she threw her remaining blade at him with a shout. Husband! If he felt at all embarrassed by her shouting that word aloud, Naruto did precious little to show it. Instead, he whirled in an instant and caught her weapon with a grateful glance. Fire flashed in the gloom as drew the other blade she'd given him from his back. Paired together, he gripped his new sword in his right hand and the blade she'd lent him in his left, crossing both before himself in a stance rather reminiscent of her own. Moonlight and fire joined together as one, bathing the darkened room in azure crimson, lighting up the very world. She'd never seen a lovelier sight in all her life. R'hllana glimpsed Mesmer lurking in the shadows, his cover stripped away by the light, face pinched in concern. Surprise gleamed in his lone golden eye, followed by wary respect. Impressive. Rising from his slouched crouch, he spat the word as though it were a curse. Most impressive. But you are not an Elden Lord yet. Her beloved beamed, blue eyes sparking gold as the great runes etched into his body blazed. That doesn't mean I'm gonna lose here, snake for brains. A spear, or was it a lance, came crashing down into his guard a moment later. Naruto parried it, and Mesmer, in his haste, sought to close the gap. Errors were made! Blocking should have rattled his bones, but the blonde barreled into him, blades blazing. Mesmer was strong. Rilana accepted that, quite possibly stronger than anyone she'd ever faced. Naruto was stronger still. With her blades in hand, he drove the abyssal serpent back with a flurry of blows, all but cleaving his defenses apart. When another such serpent sought to slam him away from its master, he pivoted upon one heel and brought a blazing blade directly into its path. Momentum did the rest. He dragged the sword across its skin, using the beast's own force against it, cutting it clean in half. Mesmer's spear stabbed through its dedicated husk, only for Naruto to stomp down, entrapping it between the flagstones. Incredibly, he decided to stow her swords and lean forward, leering at her former flame. What was he up to now? All right, Mesmer, I have 2 friends who would just love to meet you. Blue eyes bled red as he began cracking his knuckles. All the while his body gradually gleamed gold, a fire etched with eerie black markings. They're called left and right. Say hello, Tilda. The first punch caught the blind man straight in the jaw, sending him reeling. A second found his torso, folding him in half with a low wheeze. The third caught him right between the eyes, dazing him and causing Naruto to draw back a bit with a grimace. Punching someone right in the face hurt, after all. The moment's reprieve allowed Mesmer to lash out with a burst of flame for all the good it did. Naruto twisted aside, seized him by the wrist, and tore it clean off. One punch followed. He reeled and Naruto took the opportunity to tackle him, bearing him down to the ground. One punch followed. 3 punches now. 5, 7, 9. From there, the outcome of the fight was never in question. In short order, Mesmer's face beaming a bloody mess, his body limp, consciousness no doubt a haze of pain. He'd long since given up, and still Naruto kept wailing on him without so much as a sound. Something in Rilana's heart stirred. It felt like pity. Wait! Naruto paused, just shy of beating Marika's son to death. Spare his life? Rilana stumbled to her feet, wincing as her wound protested. There's no need to kill him. He is as much a victim in this as we are. He hurt Melina, and you made him pay for it. She took a hold of his wrist with trembling hands. Please, you've done enough. Naruto immediately tried to tug free. No, he deserves death. Then so do I. Naruto winced. Hey now, you didn't do anything wrong, but I did, in his name. Don't you see? She gripped him harder. We're the same. I did terrible things. And you redeemed? Nah. She looked back to Mesmer's prone form, staring sadly at the man she'd once loved above all else. From the moment he were born, he became a weapon. And then Marika tore out his eye, leaving him here to rot. Her boy, her first boy. Is it any wonder that he would seek vengeance against her? Does he not deserve the same chance at redemption? Naruto made an irritated noise, but didn't deal the final blow. TSR was progress in and of itself. He abandoned you. I was never his to abandon. Rilana shook her head. I see that, Bo. He knows not what he does, and if he does, this makes him little more than a wounded animal, lashing out at all around him, trying to make the world feel his pain. Wouldn't you do the same? His face closed down as he squinted at her. I wouldn't. I know. She'd know that. But not all of us have your patience, husband. She flushed even saying it, and hearing it made his face turn a lovely shade of red. I'm sorry. Tearing her gaze from his, she looked away and hiccuped softly. I've overstepped. Have I upset you? He blew out a sigh and looked away, still red. No, you're right. We'll deal with him when he wakes up. But if he fights back, I'm putting him down. Nothing would please me more. With a grunt, he let Mesmer fall back to the floor. Rilana preened, quietly charmed by his show of mercy. Strong, dangerous, yet merciful. Well, that wrapped things up rather nearly, didn't it? It cemented her mental image of him. With that, her mind was made up. She pounced upon him and latched onto his arm. Darling Tild. Gah! Naruto grunted in surprise as she embraced him, caught unawares. All right, I get it. For crying out loud, why do I always attract the tall ones? Rilana paid his words no heed and held tight, humming happily as she did. She'd finally found her Prince Charming after all. Never would she let him go. Chapter 35. I hereby swear, to every living being and every living soul. Now comes the age of our Eden. 1,000-year voyage guided by compassion. Beginning here, love encompasses all. No living thing will be denied, no deed censured in the name of order. I am ready to embrace the whole of it. Let us go together. No, I beg your pardon. Didn't hear me the first time, you meddling twink. I do not consent, we do not accept, and you can piss right off. Then see the price of your defiance. Tilda a legend. Ashes to ashes, the round table hold lay in tatters around him. More than tatters, set ablaze. Everything was burning. Naruto could taste it in the air, feel it encoiling deep within his lungs, the smoke choking him, strangling him even as he gazed upon the crackling ruins he'd once proudly called home. Warding one arm before his face, he used the other to wrap a blood-stained handkerchief around his mouth, the better to conserve what little oxygen he could. It availed him naught. No matter how strong he was, how powerful he'd grown, he still needed to breathe. The cloth bought him some time, but only just. He had to move while he still could. Wait, something was wrong. He shouldn't be here, or should he? Hadn't he been somewhere else a moment ago? He was sure he had, if only because he'd doing something before this. Fighting someone. There had been a battle, hadn't there? It was hard to think, harder still to recall, and hardest yet to remember. But he hadn't been here. He'd been looking for Latenna and Millicent, hadn't he? Yes, he was sure of it. Rolana was helping him. He'd found Melina, fought Mesmer. Spared him too, because Rolana had been so insisted. Yes, yes! He remembered. So why was he back in the Round Table hold now? He didn't remember returning here. It didn't make a lick of sense, unless... Someone screamed in the burning hold, a pitch cry of pain demanding his attention. Never mind that. Move! Now. Had to save them before it was too late. Before everything and everyone burned. Wading into the flames, he forced himself forward, hissing a little as the hot air scorched his lungs. The flames were intense. Unlike anything he'd ever experienced before, he could feel them melting his armor, charring his skin, burning his lungs, his regeneration taxed despite his best efforts to endure. Skirting around the main table and the molten slag where its weapons once rested, he squinted into the haze, daring to venture deeper into the hold. Something was calling to him. No, someone. Where was everyone? Surely they'd gotten out in time. Hadn't they? Hugh? He raised his voice and kept his hands to his cheeks, shouting to be heard over the blazing inferno. Roderica! Raya? Nefeli? Trish? Grail? Lanciax? Anyone? Where are you? No answers. Gritting his teeth, he forged ahead, ignored his rapidly melting armor and worsening burns. They needed him. Had to save them. He rounded a corner and found them. What was left of them? Slashed and burned and broken, their mangled bodies lay before him in ruins. Horror dawned, but it was too late to save them. Even as he knelt to try, he could see that. No pulse, no heartbeat. They were gone. His throat closed. No, no, no. He looked up and found Renala nailed to the wall by a web of golden barbs, the largest of which had been thrust clean through her chest, piercing through her very ribs. Her face was frozen in a mask of awful dread. Her once lively blue eyes little more than smouldering husks in her skull. Why? Her forlorn expression seemed to say. Why weren't you here? Why didn't you save us? Naruto whirled away, gripping his head in his hands, hastily averting his eyes. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. This isn't real! Rationalizing didn't help, no matter how much he might wish otherwise. The sight had burned itself into his brain. He stumbled past the corpses and found more bodies, ruined and dismembered, their faces frozen in silent horror, burning with yellow flame. But the only one he didn't see was... Oh, dread choked him. Fear! He barreled into the next room like a madman, dodging a falling timber as he went, seized the doors and flung them open, all but tearing them free from their hinges in his haste to enter. An armoured man's corpse lay at the foot of Fear's bed, broken and twisted, broken body brimming with black briars. Who was that? He'd never met them before. Of Fear herself, he saw nothing. He dared to hope she was long gone and his unborn children with her. But as he crossed the threshold, he saw her. A thin coating of ash covered her hunched body in her burnt black robe, curled protectively inward, hands warding protectively over her stomach. That, at least, she had successfully protected. But she hadn't been able to shield herself from the sword thrust through her chest. The unknown knight had left her there, nailed her to the floor by the blade before expiring himself. She was gone, dead, taking the twins with her. 2 children he'd never get to meet, never have a chance to hold. Never. Something shattered deep within in him at the sight. His mouth worked wordlessly for a moment, but no words came. He was left standing, struggling to breathe amidst the fire and smoke, unable to move among the ash even as it continued to spread, creeping in among... Why had this happened? Why was he being shown this? He fell to his knees, clutched his head, and hunched inward with a pained cry. As he screamed, everything gave way. The round table hold, the world, everything around him burned to ash. And there, above the terrible roaring of the flame, he heard 5 horrible words. The depths of your foolishness. 0.0, wake up! Something struck him. His eyes snapped open with a start. He couldn't see. Everything is a burning blur. A sharp cry dragged him from the dregs of his slumber all at once, bringing with it the stabbing sting of pain in his cheek as he jolted upright. He couldn't see straight, couldn't think, couldn't. Warm lips met his before he could panic further. A searingly passionate kiss that all but swallowed the shout from his lungs before he could muster even the slightest semblance of sound. Someone, a woman judging by the tenor of their voice, was speaking to him, but he could scarcely hear her words over the abysmal ringing in his ears. Then she kissed him again. Almost immediately he found himself leaning into her lip lock with gusto, frantically flinging both arms around responsible party's waist, desperate to forget what he'd just seen. In his human need, his desperate greed for comfort, he all but pulled them into his lap and held them there, kissing them furiously as his fingers bit down into her flank. Someone moaned. Even half-deaf as he was, he recognized the sound. Calm yourself. His ears popped and sound returned a moment later. With it, his sleep-blurred vision cleared. Oops! A panting, trembling Melina sat in his lap, wasted and gasping for air. Her good eye was half-lidded, her cheeks flushed, bodice askew, hands clinging to his shoulders for dear life. Belatedly, he realized she'd bitten his lip. He was healing even now, tended to by Kurama, yet pain lingered in his cheek. Now that the initial burst of panic and passion had faded, he found he could take stock of things. They'd left Mesmer's keep behind and taken refuge in a beautiful field of flowers, as far as the eye could see, dotted by crumbling buildings long since abandoned. And there, in the midst of it all, nestled beside a shard of grace, what was that? It was too small to be a lesser Erd tree, but the nascent sapling within still gave off a gentle golden light all its own. Something about this place felt strangely peaceful, and yet so terribly sad. His rune ring hummed once. This place was the beginning and the end. You should not be here. Please, leave this place. Do not look upon my shame. Looking down, he frowned. His great runes were burning in his chest, glowing like stars. Well, that wasn't ominous at all. Frowning, he touched a hand to his cheek. Did you slap me? Kurama breathed a sigh, still somewhat fazed by what they'd seen. She most certainly did. I am sorry. Melina granted him a small smile, but made absolutely no effort to disentangle herself from him. I had no wish to strike you, but you wouldn't awaken. And once you did... Raden's spectre drifted in from the corner of his vision. You were having a nightmare, my friend. Glad we snapped you out of it. We? Melina glowered at him. You were of little use yourself, Shardbearer. The general flinched. I see your tongue is sharp as ever, little sister. No thanks to you, foolish oaf of a brother. Her glare redoubled, drawing a flinch from her fellow demigod. 'Tis your fault we are in this predicament in the first place. She spat at him and jabbed a scarred finger into his transparent chest. Whatever did you do to bring down Miquella's attention upon us in such a manner? The spectral spirit flung up his hands. I already told you, I don't know. Mine memories are fuzzy and I cannot remember. Wait a minute. These two were related. Well, he supposed it made a twisted sort of sense. Letting them squabble, and ignoring it, he cast his gaze about. Wait, weren't they missing someone? He glanced up and found Relana stood off to one side, fussing over her helmet, hesitant to approach him. He didn't blame her. He must look a sight. Probably gave her quite the fright tonight. Coughing once, he gained her attention and beckoned her over. The swordswoman's face lit up like the moon itself. Naruto shifted ever so slightly where he sat, and belatedly felt the weight of the sword she'd given him resting snugly against his back. Memory stirred in the back of his mind, reminding him of the oath he'd inadvertently made and the accidental, matrimony he may have stumbled into. Right. Married. Who, boy, that was going to be fun to explain to the others. Rilana, for her part, didn't try to tackle him as she had before. She sat demurely beside him, knees tucked in beneath her, took a hold of his right arm and tucked it against her side. Unfortunately, or fortunately as some might say, her arrival put a stop to the demigod's argument in a single breath. Radahn chuckled and took his chance to fade for the moment, wisely evading the argument that was to come. Well, that he did too, because Melina sat up in his lap and took a hold of his other arm, her reaming eyes stormy. "Ah, yes, you. I'd nearly forgotten. Don't you have somewhere else to be, wench?" For her part, Renala's sister lifted her chin and met her glare for glare. "Do not think to make me cower, churl. 'Tis not my fault he chose me as his wife before thee. Right, should probably head off that argument before it blew out of proportion. Oi now, I really didn't choose anyone over anyone. He promised me a ring as well." Rilana tittered falsely. "Did he now? I suppose you'll have to settle for second place." Melina's smile sharpened, and he knew what she would say next. "I could say the same of thee." Sneering, she leaned in against him. "I've already laid with my lord. What have the two of you done again? Held hands?" She held up a hand to hide a brittle laugh. "How very bold." The knight's smile died an ugly death. "Are you actually challenging me? That sounds like an excellent idea. You could use some humility." "Ladies, please, this really ain't the time." They both ignored him and glared daggers at one another. Annoyed, he grabbed them both by the hair and clonked their heads together. That bought him a reprieve, if only for a moment. It was more than enough. Rearing back, he fixed each of them with a stern glare before they could resume hostilities. "Enough, both of you. Stop fighting! I care about you both, for crying out loud. Now cut out! I swear I'll spank you both." Melina clicked her tongue at him. "She'd probably like it." Naruto brandished his hand. "Are you volunteering to go first?" Melina huffed. "No, my lord." Rilana bowed her head. "Apologies, dearest one." They subsided only for now. Naruto blew out a sigh. He could only hope that Millicent and Latenna were having a better time of things than him. He shook his geed, determined to dispel his nightmare. They would be all right. They had to be. They must. A shadow swooped down from on high. It was his only warning. And then, whump! Grail crashed down out of the morning sky like a falling star, knees bent, wings flaring out behind her back. Lanciax was only a heartbeat behind, wings tucked in between her shoulders. Neither looked particularly pleased to see him, much to his chagrin. Lanciax, at least, granted him a demure nod. Grail, however, wore a petulant frown. Rilana pursed her lips. "More interruptions? What business do dragons have with us?" The self-proclaimed mother of dragons ignored her remark, stalked over to them, grabbed him by the armor and hoisted him to his feet without so much as a word, bodily dislodging Melina from his lap and simultaneously ripping him free from Rilana's grasp. She held him there for a moment, whirled to slam him against a nearby tree, leaned down and savagely smashed her lips against his in a scorching kiss. He swooned just for a moment. Oh wow, he'd really missed that. "There you are!" Breaking for air, the dragoness gave him a good hard shake. "Where have you been?" "Everyone has been worried sick." He managed a dazed grin. "It's not like we planned to fall down here, you know." "Is that so? Was it the gaping hole in the ground? Whatever gave it away?" He laughed a little. "You're kinda hot when you're mad, you know." She glowered at him. "Flattery will not save thee, lover." Frankly, he didn't want to be saved right now. No. I've seen enough." Rilana bulled in between them before he could get a word in edgewise and find himself ravaged. "Unhand my husband this instant." "Husband?" Grail met her star evenly, nearly of the same height with her. "This is my mate. By what right do you claim him?" The knightess made a strangled noise, face draining of all colour. "Not you, too. Just how many of you are there?" Grail grinned. "Dear girl, I'm afraid you'll have to get in line." The poor woman looked between the three of them, looked to Lanciax, then Melina, followed by Grail again. Something sparked in her eyes. In that moment, Naruto knew, he just knew she was about to cause a whole heap of trouble for him. With that in mind, he squirmed out of Grail's grasp and tried to calm Rilana down. No such luck. The second he was free, Lanciax latched onto him, slowing him for a crucial second. "Damn it!" He flung up an arm in a last-ditch attempt to stop her. "Wait a sec!" Too late. Rilana inhaled deeply, red in the face, and unleashed havoc. "He married me first!" Naruto clapped a hand to his forehead. "Now you've done it." Silence reigned in the wake of her declaration, but only for a moment. Grail's gaze went slitted. Did he now? All eyes fell upon him once more. Naruto raised his hands. No point in knocking them all out. He might as well explain himself as best he could. I can explain. Melina tapped her foot and coughed. He chuckled, scratching the back of his head. Her tapping intensified tenfold, much to his chagrin. Oh dear. I'm guessing you want a ring now, then? Lanciac sucked in a breath. A ring? He made the mistake of nodding. Well, I guess I should take responsibility and all. Errors were made and they were his. Grail pounced on him. Me first! As the insanity continued, his nightmare soon became little more than a bad memory. Gone, but not forgotten. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, he would never lose faith in those to whom he gave his trust. Chapter 36. You send me bad dreams. I steal your girl. You do realize that's a part of me I cast aside. And? You mad creature. Says the sick little bastard literally carving his soul into pieces. Tilda a legend. Sleep no more, Naruto stood at the precipice of the abyss. The wind rising from its yawning depths, a cold whisper of death. The great fissure split the earth like an ancient wound, stretching wide and bottomless beneath a slate-grey sky. A bitter stench exhaled from below, a foul bouquet of damp rot, iron, and the sour reek of forgotten corpses. It clawed at his nostrils, coating his tongue with the taste of something long dead and best left buried. He narrowed his eyes. There was no golden grace here, no divine light to offer guidance or comfort, only shadows that clung like oil and a silence so deep it pressed against his eardrums. Whatever had once watched over this place had long since turned its gaze elsewhere. He stood alone. Grail and Lanciax disliked this place. He couldn't even blame them for that. This strange purple smog knocked out nearly anyone who dared venture into the depths. Melina lingered close by, but only in astral form, unwilling to fall into slumber alongside Rolana. Lucky. The girls at least could stand to fall asleep. Not him. Not after that nightmare. Not after what he'd seen in this vision. He wouldn't be sleeping for a while in this place. Not if he could help it. Naruto flexed his fingers, chakra crackling faintly in his palm like the heartbeat of a distant storm. One soul at a time, he whispered to himself, a vow forged in blood and fire, one he had no intention of breaking. If even a single person remained lost down in the chasm, he would descend. He would find them, and he would bring them back. The ground beneath him trembled as he stepped onto the spiraling path carved into the inner wall of the chasm. The narrow ledge curled downward like a serpent, slick with moss and time. With every cautious step, the light above dimmed, swallowed by the endless dark below. The deeper he went, the worse the air became, thicker, heavier, almost alive. It crept into his lungs like a curse, cloying and fetid, as though the very air resisted his presence. By the time his boots met the bottom, the world had become a half-lit dream. Bioluminescent fungi clung to the jagged stone, casting eerie pulses of blue and green across the walls like flickering ghosts. He tried not to think about that last bit, given his own innate fear of the paranormal. And there, half sunken into the damp floor, were stone coffins, hundreds of them, jutting from the earth at odd angles, a burial site. Or perhaps something worse. Naruto stepped over the shattered remains of a coffin lid, eyes sweeping the cavern beyond. It opened up like a cathedral of nightmares, a vast subterranean chamber, its ceiling veiled in darkness, its silence broken only by the faint drip of unseen water. In its center stood an altar, Noah's shrine, desecrated and decaying, pale stone bleached by time, inlaid with gold that had tarnished into black veins. Whatever god it honored had long since abandoned it. And draped over its base was a girl. She looked like she had been carved from moonlight, her silvery hair spilling across the cold stone like strands of silk. Her limbs were twisted, her robes torn, stained with dirt and old blood. A breath so faint it barely stirred her chest proved she yet lived, but only just. Naruto's heart clenched. Could this truly be her? The one whispered of in the forgotten hymns. Saint Trina, the maiden of dreams, the solace of the forsaken? Was she the one who had been calling out to him in his dreams before Miquella invaded them? He stepped forward, rage simmering behind his eyes. No one deserved to be left like this, not even a saint. His foot scuffed against the stone. The sound was small, barely more than a whisper, but it was enough. A low growl rippled through the cavern, wet, gurgling like tar boiling beneath the surface. The air itself seemed to recoil, and the glowing fungi dimmed, shuddering as if in fear. Naruto froze, every muscle taut, senses sharpened to a razor's edge. Something stirred behind the shrine, not just movement, but presence, thick and suffocating. The air itself seemed to recoil. Then came the sound, metal on stone. A great sword, massive and corroded, dragged across the cavern floor with a shriek that echoed like a scream from the grave. It was followed by slow, deliberate footsteps, wet, uneven, and wrong. A silhouette peeled itself free from the wall of darkness behind the altar, lumbering forward with an unnatural gait. It was tall, hunched, and grotesquely disfigured limbs swollen and elongated, armor fused with blistered, rotting flesh. In the eerie fungal light, it stepped into view, and Naruto's breath caught. It was no ordinary knight. Its armor was rusted and blistered with corrosion, as though it had been submerged in rot for centuries. But that wasn't what made Kurama stir in alarm, his voice whispering like wind through bone in Naruto's mind. "Look at its back," the fox growled. Naruto did, and nausea threatened to overtake him. Jutting from the creature's back were equine bones, twisted, fused, malformed. A warped saddle spine arched grotesquely over its midsection, half sunken into its armor like a parasite that had grown into the host. Its legs had fused with the limbs of a horse, misshapen and inverted, ending in a single intact hoof that clacked hollowly with each step. Bones jutted at jagged angles, some cracked open to reveal slivers of marrow turned black. Naruto swallowed. He grafted his horse onto himself, he whispered, used it to survive. To keep fighting. Kurama's growl deepened, thrumming in Naruto's chest. Even beasts deserve better than that. The creature's head tilted at the sound of Naruto's voice, and for a heartbeat, there was stillness. Then it roared. A horrible, gurgling sound burst from its chest, a death rattle caught in wet lungs. Its glowing, sunken eyes ignited with hate, and it raised its corroded blade overhead. With a sudden slam of its hoofed limb, the stone beneath it cracked, sparks leaping from the impact. It charged. Naruto barely had time to react. One moment, it was 10 meters away. The next, it was on him, its massive sword cleaving through the air with horrifying speed. Naruto launched himself backward, the blade carving a crater where he had stood. Shards of stone and rot exploded outward, peppering him as he landed in a crouch, skidding across the slick floor. The stench hit him full force. Decay. Rust. Sulfur. The miasma radiating off the creature was a living thing, clinging to his skin, crawling into his lungs. It made his stomach lurch, but he forced the bile down. "This must be it," he muttered, rising slowly. The putrescent knight from the old war chants. The one said to have fused with his dying mount, cursed to protect the dead until the end of time. The knight turned toward him, dragging its blade in a wide arc, gouging stone like butter. It moved like a nightmare clumsy, but far too fast for its bloated mass. Sinew and bone creaked with each step, wet muscle twitching with reanimated vigor. Naruto exhaled slowly. He brought his hands together, chakra flaring to life around him, warm golden orange, a contrast to the cold decay of the chasm. It ignited in his chest, spiraling through his limbs, steadying his breath. He took a single step forward. "I'm not here for you," he called out, voice calm but firm. "Let me take the girl and walk away. You don't have to die again." The creature paused. A twitch in its malformed neck, a spasm in its hoofed leg, then a snarl jagged and bubbling like flesh tearing underwater. So that was its answer. Naruto narrowed his eyes. So be it. Chakra burst beneath Naruto's feet as he shot forward like a comet, leaving a trail of searing orange light in his wake. He landed low, knees bent, sandals skidding on slick stone. Without pausing, his fingers blurred into a familiar seal. With a sharp snap of chakra and a puff of smoke, 2 shadow clones flickered into existence beside him. No words were needed, they moved as one. The trio lunged toward the putrescent knight, a blur of synchronized motion. The first clone charged head-on, intercepting the creature with a defiant cry. It didn't stand a chance. With a sickening crack, the knight's rusted gauntlet backhanded the clone mid-step, obliterating it in a spray of rot and smoke. The clone vanished in an instant, but the force of the blow splattered blackened gore across the stone wall with such violence that even Naruto winced. The second clone stayed at range, hurling kunai and shuriken in a rapid flurry. The blades ricocheted off the knight's armor, with little more than metallic pings a distraction, not a threat. Still, it bought precious seconds, and Naruto needed only one. A high-pitched whine filled the cavern as he summoned power into his palm chakra, spiraling, condensing, roaring into shape. Rasengan. The blue sphere flared to life, its rotating surface casting wild shadows across his face. With a roar, Naruto burst forward, angling in from the knight's flank. The putrescent knight reacted with disturbing speed for something so decayed, its massive greatsword arcing towards him like a falling tower. But Naruto was already moving. He dropped low, sliding across the slime-slick floor, the sword screaming inches above his head. Cold wind from the swing rushed over him. In the same breath, he surged upward and drove the Rasengan forward with all his strength. "Take this!" The spinning chakra sphere collided with the knight's torso, and the impact was explosive. A wet, rupturing sound tore through the cavern as the Rasengan punched a gaping hole through rusted armor and rotted flesh. Putrid fluid and shredded meat erupted from the knight's back in a gruesome fountain, painting the stone with decay. Naruto flipped clear, landing in a crouch behind the creature. His chest heaved with effort, steam rising from his shoulders in the cold, foul air. The stench of charred rot hung heavy, clinging to his skin and tongue. He glanced back, eyes narrowing. The knight was still standing. A yawning, jagged cavity marred its midsection, ribs and viscera exposed to the dim light. For a moment it swayed, a lifeless husk suspended by hatred alone. Then the impossible happened. The flesh twitched. Then it pulsed. Before Naruto's eyes, the ruined tissue began knitting itself back together, stringy muscle coiling like worms, bone reforming in sickening pops. Armor plates screeched as they bent, sealing back over the newly formed tissue like scabs. Within seconds, the gaping wound was gone. Only warped metal and ragged cloth remained. Naruto's brows furrowed. "Regeneration," he muttered. Of course it wouldn't be that easy. Kurama's voice echoed grimly inside him. This one isn't alive. It's held together by something worse than chakra. Hate. Blight. Some kind of curse. The putrescent knight straightened, its grotesque frame rising with a series of sickening cracks. The glow in its hollow eyes intensified, a hateful crimson burning like embers in a sunken skull. Black rot oozed from its gaping maw as it let out a gurgling, phlegm-thick roar, shaking dust loose from the cavern ceiling. Then, with a wet squelch, its twisted limbs shifted and it brandished its warped weapon in both hands, not clumsily this time, but with terrifying purpose. Naruto grimaced, sweat beading along his temple. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered, sliding back into a guarded stance. This thing, it wasn't just regenerating. It was adapting. That healing it was nearly instantaneous, like an Edo Tensei zombie from his own world. Except worse. This wasn't bound by seals or techniques. It was being kept alive by something fouler, older. Naruto's sharp eyes scanned the knight's decaying frame, searching for any hint of a weakness. Then he saw it, a faint bulge beneath the cracked breastplate, pulsing with a dim, sickly purple glow like a corrupted heartbeat. His breath caught. There. That had to be it. The core. But before he could move, the knight twitched, its movements jerky, panicked. It slammed a clawed, rusted hand against its chest, covering the glow with a horrible hiss like boiling flesh on steel. Naruto's heart pounded. So I was right. Now all he needed was one clear shot. The knight lunged without warning, its massive blade gleaming with filth and fury. Naruto barely twisted aside in time, the weapon slicing past his ribs in a gust of wind and rot. He didn't stop. He couldn't. The creature gave a bubbling snarl and reared up, blade raised high over its head, a killing blow meant to flatten him like a nail. "Enough!" Naruto roared, unleashing a tidal wave of chakra. A howling surge of orange light burst around him like wildfire, his body engulfed in the blazing cloak of the Ninetales. 2 chakra arms exploded from his back, incandescent and rippling with raw power. The greatsword came crashing down and Naruto caught it. Stone cracked under his feet, the cavern trembling from the force. Sparks screamed as the rusted blade ground against the fox's chakra, spitting steam and rot in all directions. Naruto gritted his teeth, muscles burning with strain. The knight pushed harder, howling like an animal, a monstrous strength forcing the corrupted blade downward inch by inch. "Fine," Naruto snarled, golden eyes narrowing. "You want to play strongman?" Let's play. With a defiant roar, one chakra tail wrenched the sword off course, flinging it wide and slamming it into the stone floor with a thunderous crash. The cavern trembled. In the same instant, two more chakra arms whipped out, snaring the knight's arms in a crushing grip. The creature shrieked, a shrill, warbling cry of fury and panic as it struggled against the glowing limbs. Its rotting skin hissed and bubbled under the touch of the Nine-Tails chakra. Patches of flesh peeled away in steaming chunks. But even in agony, it fought like a cornered beast writhing in a frenzy. Naruto winced as the knight's corrosive rot began to eat away at his cloak, wisps of chakra sizzling and fading. Time was running out. He had to end this now. Summoning a surge of wind nature chakra, Naruto thrust out a hand. In a flash, a Rasengan began to form, but it didn't stay small. It expanded, grew unstable, whining like a storm caught in a cage. Blades of wind howled outward as the sphere spun faster, morphing into a shrieking Rasen shuriken, its edges crackling like a buzzsaw made of compressed hurricanes. The putrescent night froze its glowing eyes wide with something dangerously close to fear. The shrill keening of the Rasen shuriken filled the cavern, vibrating the walls and sending pebbles skittering across the floor. Naruto locked onto that pulsing purple glow beneath the knight's breastplate, now barely visible between the plates of corroded armor. "Let's see you come back from this," Naruto yelled. He released the chakra tails restraining the knight and hurled the Rasen shuriken straight at its chest, aiming for that purple core. For a heartbeat, utter silence. Then, boom! The Rasen shuriken detonated in a blinding vortex of razors and raw chakra, its shrill scream swallowed by a deafening shockwave. The entire cavern heaved, its ancient stone walls groaning in protest as the force tore through the underground expanse. Dust, debris, and fragments of shattered coffins erupted into the air like shrapnel. Cracks spiderwebbed across the floor, and centuries of death and dust were whipped into a chaotic storm. Naruto staggered back, one arm shielding his eyes as grit and sharp winds tore past him. The light was blinding, a miniature sun exploding in the shadows. He could feel the chakra tearing through the rot, unmaking the filth on a molecular level. And then stillness. The wind died, the glow dimmed, and silence fell once more heavier this time, as though the cavern itself had exhaled for the first time in ages. Before him, where the night had once stood, there now yawned a deep gouge in the earth, blackened and smoking. Scattered hunks of rotted flesh and splintered armor lay strewn about like forgotten debris. The air still reeked of decay, but it was fading. The core was gone. Obliterated. The nightmare was over. Naruto stood in the settling dust, chest rising and falling, his breath ragged but heady with triumph. His hands trembled, not from exhaustion but from the sheer pressure of holding back the memory of what could have happened had he failed. Then his eyes widened. He had almost forgotten. The girl. Damn! In a flash, he blurred forward, feet slapping against cracked stone as he raced toward the altar. The shrine was untouched, eerily serene amidst the destruction. The slender figure still lay crumpled across its base, her silver-white hair tangled like gossamer threads soaked in blood and dust. She hadn't moved. Naruto dropped to his knees beside her, heart hammering. Up close, she looked even more fragile. Tragic. Her frame, once graceful, was now a ruin. One arm severed completely at the shoulder lay nearby, half submerged in rot and gravel. The other limbs were twisted at grotesque angles, fractured bones jutting through torn skin like shards of white porcelain. Blood both red and strange, golden ichor leaked from countless wounds, soaking the altar beneath her. And yet she was alive. Barely. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven rhythms. Each breath was a rattle, a whisper of life clinging to broken flesh. Naruto leaned in close, brushing dirt-caked hair gently from her face. Her eyelids fluttered at his touch, but she didn't wake. Hey, can you hear me?" he whispered, voice hoarse. No answer, just another breath shaky but still there. Naruto's throat tightened, a sharp ache rising beneath his sternum. This wasn't just a victim. This girl, this was someone who had endured something beyond human comprehension, trapped in this hell, alone and forsaken. He would not let her die. Gently, he slid an arm beneath her back and lifted her against him. She sagged into his grip, limp and cold, terrifyingly cold, like a statue left out in the dead of winter. Her body felt impossibly light, as though her bones were brittle glass, her strength long since bled away. Naruto held her close, shielding her from the chill, from the rot still lingering in the air, from the memory of the thing he'd just slain. He grit his teeth. No more, he whispered to himself. No more dying. Not while I'm still breathing. His mind flashed images of Neji, Jiraiya, Kurama, and so many others who had fallen while he lived on. That ache threatened to crush him, but he shoved it down. This time would be different. This time, he'd save someone. He closed his eyes, drawing a deep breath. He focused inward, toward the core of his being where his life force burned brightest. Slowly his body began to glow, a soft, ethereal blue light, like a warm star born in the dark. Carefully, he pressed his glowing palm over the deep wound in her abdomen, where blood and ichor mixed in a ruinous mess of torn flesh. His other hand cradled her broken body, keeping her close, letting her feel his warmth. The light grew stronger. Just hang on, he whispered. I've got you. And in the stillness of the ruined chasm, bathed in blue light and the scent of blood and stone, Naruto began the slow, desperate work of healing a life not yet lost. Please, he whispered, his voice hoarse and heavy with emotion. Hang in there. You're not alone anymore. His arms tightened around her broken body as he poured chakra into her. Not just energy, but intention. A will to save, to restore, to protect. At first there was nothing. No response. Only the fragile stillness of her dying body and the cold silence of the chasm. Naruto shut his eyes and focused deeper, reaching into the well of his chakra. It surged through him like a tide of warmth, flowing into her shattered form, soft, steady, insistent. The chakra wrapped around her like a blanket, searching, pleading for something, anything, to respond. And then he felt it, a resistance. Like his chakra had hit a barrier, an invisible wall between him and her core. A part of her refusing help, refusing hope. Come on, he muttered, gritting his teeth. Don't do this. Don't fade away now. He pushed harder. His chakra swelled, not with force, but with conviction. He channeled every ounce of his spirit, every memory of loss, every time he swore he wouldn't let someone slip through his fingers again. He refused to give up. Suddenly, with a soundless jolt, the barrier cracked. His chakra broke through. And in that moment of contact, Naruto felt everything. Agony, isolation, being torn asunder, a scream that had no voice, no end. Loneliness so vast and consuming it nearly drowned him. The sheer weight of her sorrow slammed into his soul like a tidal wave. He gasped, his body tensing, fingers trembling as the girl's suffering surged into him like a storm of broken memories. For one terrible second, he almost pulled away. But he didn't. No, he choked out, tightening his embrace. He pressed his forehead to hers, eyes squeezed shut as hot tears welled up and traced silent trails down his cheeks. It's okay, I'm here. I'm not letting go. His voice cracked, but the truth in it rang like a vow carved in stone. And the storm began to calm. The chaotic emotions inside her, the endless despair, they softened, soothed by the raw sincerity of his touch, his presence. Her resistance faltered. Her broken soul, threadbare and flickering, began to resonate with his. The blue light around them brightened, flaring with warmth so intense it banished the shadows of the chasm. The glow shifted, tinged now with gold, soft and radiant, as if her own chakra, frail but still alive, was answering his call. Naruto opened his eyes just in time to witness a miracle. Her body began to mend. Cracks in her skin shimmered and sealed, glowing lines tracing over her limbs like threads of starlight. Beneath the surface, bones groaned and realigned, tendons knitting themselves back together with fluid grace. The mangled shapes of her legs and arms slowly straightened, joints snapping into place with delicate, silken sounds. The severed arm beside her twitched, as if awakening from a long slumber. Naruto watched, stunned, as it lifted, drawn by the magnetic pull of her reawakening chakra. With a soft pulse of light, the limb rejoined her shoulder, the wound closing seamlessly in a radiant flash. Wounds vanished, blood dissolved. Her ragged skin smoothed, revealing pristine flesh, pale as moonlight and unmarred by violence. The filth that had caked her was washed away in the golden glow, revealing not a corpse but something ethereal divine. Her hair shifted colour, strands of dull grey shimmering into silken locks of silver white, cascading down her shoulders like starlight. Her expression, once twisted in pain, now looked peaceful, almost serene. Naruto let out a shuddering breath, his own energy finally slowing. The healing glow dimmed to a gentle shimmer, and the cavern returned to stillness. She was whole again, unscarred, beautiful, alive. He looked down at her in awe, his arm still holding her close. "You're safe now," he whispered, brushing a silken strand from her cheek. "I promise, I won't let the world hurt you again." And as if hearing his words in the quiet after the storm, her fingers twitched. For a long moment, Naruto simply knelt there, his breathing slow, heart still racing, the girl's slight weight cradled in his arms. His whole body trembled, not from exertion, but from the overwhelming surge of relief. She was alive. Not barely hanging on. Not slipping between worlds. Alive. Then she stirred. A faint, hitching breath slipped past her lips, as fragile as the rustling of leaves in winter. Her eyelashes fluttered, then slowly lifted, revealing eyes like sunlight refracted through amethyst, vivid, glassy, and impossibly deep. For a heartbeat, she simply stared at him, dazed and silent. Then their gazes locked. She did not speak, but something sparked in the purple depths of her eyes. Recognition, joy, longing, and her lips parted in a soft gasp. A choked sob escaped her, sharp and raw with emotion. Before Naruto could speak, she surged forward, arms suddenly tight around his neck in a grip that was all desperation and wild joy. The force of it knocked him backward onto his rear with a startled grunt. She buried her face in his shoulder, trembling, her silvery hair cascading over them like a curtain of moonlight. Naruto froze, stiff as a statue, as her tears soaked through his cloak, hot and unrelenting. "Mine!" The cry rang through the cavern like a song and a proclamation all at once, laced with laughter and weeping, echoing wildly off the stone walls. Naruto sat frozen in shock, ears burning red. What? His mind scrambled to keep up. He'd faced monsters, gods, death itself. But this was new. Her heart thudded against his chest fast and strong. She trembled in his arms, holding him like she'd spent 1,000 years alone and had just now returned to life. Maybe she had. Naruto blinked, baffled, arms halfway raised like he didn't know where to put them. Hey, he began awkwardly, barely able to speak with her wrapped so tightly around him. "I am glad you're okay, but what do you mean, mine?" She didn't respond, not right away. She just pressed closer, almost climbing into his lap, sobbing softly but smiling now, her body vibrating with relief. Her fingers curled into the fabric of his jacket as if terrified he might vanish if she let go. "You finally found me," she whispered at last, her voice a trembling breath. "You heard me, even when I could only speak in your dreams. You came." Naruto's eyes softened. The raw gratitude in her voice, the unbearable loneliness behind it, wasn't something he could brush off. His awkwardness gave way to compassion, and his arms finally moved, slowly wrapping around her protectively. "Yeah," he murmured, voice low. "I did. You're safe now." She nodded, eyes squeezed shut, a smile blooming through her tears. "I knew you'd come. Even if I didn't know your name, I knew." Naruto's heart thudded painfully in his chest, caught somewhere between confusion, awe, and the weight of a promise he didn't remember making, but had somehow already kept. He held her there in the silence, surrounded by the wreckage of battle and the soft shimmer of fading chakra light. For once the chasm felt warm. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Naruto realized something with alarming clarity. He hadn't simply saved a stranger this time. He'd become someone's miracle. Wait a minute. Hadn't she said mine earlier? He recalled that word well. Well, that settled it. Yup, that certainly settled things. Melina was going to kill him,